Sometimes you get done with a piece of art and it like blows your fucking socks off. Obviously, that's what happened when I saw Violent Night. I said, I will never see a movie as good as Violent Night in the history of time. And I walked out of the theater dancing. But
man,
not every movie can be Violent Night, you know?
Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Che.
And this is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fed in popular culture. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, it's like if Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin, instead of loathing one another and raging a never-ending war, they loathed each other and raged a never-ending podcast about really good picture books. Is that fair, Cory?
Sure, why not? Let's
Which
just go with
one
that.
of us is Putin?
We all know the answer to that.
I find myself once again offended before the podcast even begins.
Well, I was going to say me, but I'm glad that you already realized the answer, so let's continue.
People might be asking themselves, why did Che start the podcast with a Ukraine war reference? And the answer is, it's because it's our 2022 podcasts.
Got to look back at this shitty year, right?
And there's no better way to look back at this shitty year by, of course, talking about the comic books, the TV, and the excellent movies that all came out this year. And we're starting off, of course, for those of you who did not read the title of the episode you decided to watch, with 2022's best and worst podcasts. No, comic books. Best and worst comic books. What would be the best and worst podcast of 2022, Cory? Should we do a quick rundown?
Okay, worst, Joe Rogan probably is up there.
You're the one that's always giving me shit about coming for Joe Rogan. Look at you. Top of the rope.
What else?
I
I'm
mean,
sure there's...
Obviously, the best is Next Time On Pod.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just without
I
question.
thought I teed that one up for you pretty easily, but you just weren't going for it.
Second best is our friend of the podcast, 230's Limited Run. Mini series podcast that seems to pop in and out whenever they feel like recording. I can't throw too much shade.
I love the vibe at 2:30 because it's just five niggas in a room yelling at each other. I can't remember what episode.
You know what's great about that? There's only 4, but it sounds like there's 5.
That's right. You're right. It is probably. I can't remember what episode I was listening to, or what anybody was even talking about. But there was one point in the podcast where all the people were talking at the exact same moment. I was like, this is the chaos that I need in my life.
Also, I will give one other plug to another podcast that my friend does. Captain Hippo Pleases the Cube. If you're interested in a very funny comedy podcast, I really recommend picking it up.
Sick name. What?
I know.
Captain Hippo Pleases the Q? Like Q, like Q-E-U. No, that's not how you spell that word.
No. Good start for both of us. But no, it's a podcast where they have to do improv bits in order to please a robotic cube. It's very fun.
Cube.
Like cube.
I thought you were saying Q like a line. I was like,
No. I have no idea if it's a reference to that horrible reality show, The Cube, but it's like the same concept. Except
the
it's just
Cube
as
with
deadly.
like
Dwayne
Wade, right? Stolen
Yeah.
from as all of our reality shows are weirdly from the UK. There's like a UK version of it that has existed.
And now there's a podcast version of it with bits.
I love it. Well, before we jump into it, as always, a couple points of business. Don't forget to follow us at Next Time On Pod on all your social media platforms. And if you are watching on the YouTube channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Really helps us out. If you're not, go check out the YouTube channel. You can see us in all of our beautiful regalia. I'm currently wearing a what is this called? I literally just said it 2 seconds ago. Care Bear. A Care Bear shirt. This is Punch Nazis. I love it.
That's a good one.
And
you can look at Cory's colorful background. I'm recording from a very different location than normal.
Cory's got Cory, I'll leave the listeners to go check out what Cory's
You should
got
go
in his
check out
background.
yes, you should.
Won't spoil that for the audio listeners. And of course, you can find, this is the first of our end of year podcast, but if you are listening to us anytime after the other ones have released. You can find all that at nexttimeon.net or, of course, on all podcast platforms because we are unavoidable. We're all over the place like cockroaches.
Some people would call us annoying.
Some people, but those people would be wrong. Mm-hmm. But no point in fucking beating around the bush. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Absolutely.
We're gonna start because there's a lot of great comic books to talk about. But we're going to save those, and we're going to start by talking about the worst that this year had to offer. And Cory, do you want to go first for the people?
Sure. So I think I'm going to go from least. I'm going to start with my most disappointing comic.
Oh, you ordered these? I'd honestly just I didn't
order these. I'm looking at my list right now. I didn't want to go straight from the gate, the one I hated the most. But I'm starting off with DC's event for 2022, Dark Crisis. It's one of those things where I don't want to say it's the worst thing I read this year, but I can't say that I enjoyed it. It was 6 months of just, I'm waiting for something to happen, and nothing happened.
Those are my favorite comic books.
It was basically a waste of editorial. You can't have a book that's like, this is the books about the death of the Justice League, and you can't have that going on when you have Superman just in his own book. So timeline-wise, it makes no sense. There's no stakes. The whole promise of it is supposed to be like, oh, Nightwing's the main character, but he doesn't really do anything. It was just kind of a big old mess with some pretty splash pages, but honestly, it was just left a very hollow feeling in how much I loathe event books. Ugh. Even though later in the podcast I'm going to be talking about one.
Well, the thing is, event books, when they're done well, are some of the best thing that comics have to offer.
Yes.
And really takes the superhero comic medium in particular to a new level. And when they're at their worst, they're Civil War.
Yes, they are.
Unreadable garbage. So.
And they're also Civil War too.
Yes.
This wasn't unreadable. It's one of those books where somebody who sees you pick it up, don't pick this one up. It's a complete waste of time. Honestly, out of the last 10 years of reading DC comic events, this is the one that I was like, Jesus Christ, nothing that happened here. And I read both the Metal books. I own one of the Metal books, and that book's just
you say both the Metal books, but there was 7,000 Metal books as I kept trying.
I
honestly tried to keep it for a little bit, and I was like, what's happening? Every week there's 7 Metal books, and I'm just confused.
See, that's also the thing with that one, though, Dark Crisis, though. They're at the very last chapter, some of the people just show up with a bunch of people look, we just got the thing that we need, and it's go read this book, and I'm like, I don't want to go read that book. I'm not enjoying the main book. Why would I want to go read the book that just gave me the MacGuffin? I don't need that. I don't want to read that book.
My rule is anytime your superhero comic book has 2 or more asterisks in them telling me to go read other books, you've failed at your job.
Exactly.
I'll take one. I'll even, in a pinch, I might allow you 2. So I should say 3 or more. But if you're up here doing 3 asterisks telling me to go check out Thor issue 77 and Spider-Man No Way Home issue 12 or whatever the fuck, I'm get out of here. You write a story or don't.
And I'm going to make a note because I want to follow up on this later on, but someone did do that where I was reading a book, and it's in one of my best of books of the year, where I was like, where the fuck did this come from? And I had no idea. And they was like, go read this book. But I'm like, I don't need to because you gave me enough
right.
I don't need that much more context for me to understand this.
Yeah, I should say I'm not saying that books that exist in the canon are bad. I love canon. We've talked about how we're big canon heads on this podcast. And
I think that's
I say that.
No. That's the reason I'm in comics. I love canon.
You just hate the word canon head.
Canon head is the worst thing ever. But I think what annoys me so much with the big 2 of comic books, Marvel and DC, is there was the thing at one point where there is a timeline and we're making this gigantic story together. And I feel like in the last couple of years, it's just so much been lost in everything.
Yeah.
Where the entire point of it is kind of getting lost. And I think that's the problem I had with Dark Crisis, where the event is supposed to take place, where it follows along, what happens with the world without the Justice League. Interesting concept. You have a lot of other characters stepping up into it. But they don't really explore that. We know the Justice League's coming back. You shoehorned the fuck out of Black Adam into this event for no reason. Well, wow. We know the reason.
Yeah, I say for a reason.
Yeah, but I will say this.
It's because The Rock had the author in a chokehold being like,
I will say this
Black Adam.
Go look up the final issue of that series, because at a certain point the artist definitely was getting the note, make him look like The Rock. Yeah. And it is unabashedly The Rock, and it is very, very distracting.
Oh, how many DC comic books have been ruined forever by the inclusion of the insignia at the bottom of the page or bottom of the cover on for the last 7 months of books is saying Black Adam in theaters or whatever. That's somebody has like a maybe collector's edition issue of like a Batman or even like a Black Adam book, and it has that stupid go see this terrible movie in theaters. Yeah, at the bottom.
But I think we're gonna dunk on that movie at some point during our best of movies of this year.
It's coming.
It's definitely going to be on our worst list. You know what the thing about Black Adam is? Like, and I want to just jump off this after this last point. Mm-hmm. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Mm-hmm. All right, Che. So, what's your next book?
Well, I'm gonna dunk on this guy because we only have great stuff to say to him for the rest of the podcast. But we actually talked about the first issue of this, or no, we didn't talk about it. We had it planned for an episode. And I think we pulled it because we were like, none of us have anything interesting to say. And that is Tom King's Love Everlasting book, which was just confusing. Like very... Tom King, a guy who... I will say this. I basically could have, of the 5 books we're about to talk about for our superhero top 5 list, I think they all could have been Tom King for me. So the fact that he wrote this just... very poorly paced, clunky dialogue.
This was one of the worst things I think I read this year. No, because I remember this like happening because all the issues came out digitally. And
it was very confusing because they were all available around places.
But I think you only read the first issue. And I think I read the entirety of it, Che. And I remember texting you. I'm like, this is really bad. Like, did you like? And I mentioned something issue 3. Like, what are you talking? You're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I thought we were reading the entire run. You're like, no, only issue 1.
Yeah, I mean, technically it was released from August to December, but if for some reason they were all available at once somewhere. I don't know. It was just a mess. It was a mess.
It was a mess.
Very off. Out of character for Tom King.
But I think that's the thing about Tom King, though, is he's not very good at... I mean, I don't want to say he's not very good at romance, but it's like I can't think of many books where, like, besides, I guess, Mr. Miracle, where, like, romance is, like, a good part of the story. I mean, like, Big Barda?
Yeah.
And Mr. Miracle, their love story or whatever is very well done. But it's just, they feel like a very, like, good
Strange
couple.
Adventures.
Yeah, well, I guess we shouldn't really call that
I mean, before it turned... I mean, it is a kind of the whole point is a beautiful love story in his version of the story, right?
Yes, that's fair.
The thing that I think doesn't work in Love Everlasting is actually not the love story. It's like everything else about it. The weird...
Oh, no, not yet. No, it's...
like, everything else
happened?
I honestly couldn't tell you, man.
I read the entire thing. Like, I think I finished it. I think we talked about it on the episode. I'm like, I still don't fucking exactly remember what the fuck happened.
But yeah, wasn't great. That is one of my worst of the year. Corey, what do you got next?
What I got next?
Why don't you do the rest of yours? Because I think we should save mine for the coup d'etat, right? We should save my other one for the end of the...
Sure.
Yeah.
There's another... Okay, so there's one more book, Che and I... Well, we actually reread 2 of these books. King of Spies by Mark Miller. Just a lot of just Mark Miller. If you guys aren't super familiar with Mark Miller, you're listening to us for the first time. He's the guy who did Wanted and Kick-Ass, and those are his good books. But
I should say, should we go back and revisit Wanted?
Oh, Wanted might be our first like bad book club episode.
I'm actually kind of down because we loved it as kids.
Yeah, and I don't, but I think I remember it so well that I'm like, wow. I know
there's a
why.
Chance it's horrendous.
I know why 12-year-old us loved those books, but it's just like probably really bad. Yeah. But yeah, no, King of Spies was just everything that's wrong about Mark Miller. It's a very vapid story, a bunch of just men being men and having sex with women and being cool and guns and shitty dialogue, and it's just shit. Honestly, it's all shit.
Before this year, I didn't really know how to describe Mark Miller books effectively. But what it is Mark Miller is the Andrew Tate of comic book writers. A name that I didn't know before 2022, and I'm very sad that I know now. But I sort of like... I just find his writing to be prepubescent in a way that I don't understand the appeal of it. He's got another book coming out for Image in a couple weeks called Nemesis Reloaded, and it's almost certainly going to be fucking stupid. I mean, I will say he's not like he throws so much shit at the wall. Like, sometimes stuff hits. I think the Magic Order is like fine. It's like a decent book as far as stuff goes. Obviously, I've talked about Huck before.
Yeah, like he definitely has some. And I think like even like I got a lot of problems with Kick-Ass, but like there's still some good in there. But it's just he's not. I think he's lost his touch in the same way that Bendis has. All right, what I got up next? I got Teen Titans Academy, another book that just straight up disappointed me. 15 issues of build up for a shitty reveal. That's all I got to say about it. Yeah, just honestly felt like a big old waste of time. The last book we talked about was Batman versus Bigby, a Fable spinoff.
Poor Bill Wellington. He's like,
He's
tried his best.
I haven't gone back and tried the Fables reboot. I haven't done that yet, and I wonder how it holds up. So I don't want to dunk on him because I did love Fables to an extent. I definitely didn't. I never finished Fables because I just kind of got bored with it. It wasn't bad; it just got boring, and I felt like after the big like reveal / twist, it kind of just fell off the rails. But up to that build up, it was great. But this book, Batman versus Bigby, was just a big old mess. The art was not good. And the writing just felt bad and stilted, and it was just kind of it was both a bore and like just not enjoyable.
I honestly forgot this book existed before you put it on your list.
I have a big old history of my comics, everybody. So I was going through it. I'm like, oh wait, I just disliked that. Yeah. But I really want to talk about the good books in this. So Che, can we mention what our last bad book is before we talk about what the best of this year was?
I mean, you teased our boy already. His name has come up. This comic book has been mentioned on the podcast many times before. I think we talked about the first issue out of morbid curiosity, and that is
we did.
Brian Michael Bendis, after his, I think, fleeing is the best word I can think of, from DC to go to Dark Horse, has re-released Pearl, an unreadable garbage book on there, but also has brought us Joy Operations, a truly horrendous piece of sci-fi writing. It is. I honestly don't know what to do with this because the dialogue in it is so clunky to the point. It's essentially, I've never read anything that's like a 90% exposition. It's so weird.
And it's like not well done. It's like not hidden at all. It's just shit. And they're just, how do you do a tell not show as a professional comic book writer? We always
in a visual medium, literally
in a visual medium. And Bendis has always been like very long-winded. I mean, to the point where he even made fun of himself in Crossover, which I think the best thing he's done writing wise was making fun of himself in Crossover.
Yeah,
but it's like weird where like someone sees that self-aware, but then he makes a book like this where it's a character doing Bendis speak to themselves. And I mean, I feel like we've done this conversation before, and people who don't understand what Bendis speak is, it's basically like me saying the same thing over and over again, but in different ways. And it's people don't talk like that to the point you want to punch them in the face.
Right.
It's like, I want to punch you in the face. You want to punch me in the face? Yeah, I want to punch you in the face. Why do you want to punch me in the face? Because you deserve to get punched in the face. And it's just that for like 3 pages, and it's like nothing was actually said.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Joy Operations is a fucking mess and a half. One of the worst things I've ever read.
I think Bendis is at his best when he's writing either Spider-Man or Jessica Jones. If those two are in a book that he's writing, he's usually at his best. But at the same time, we still got Defenders. So, yeah. So, I'm hoping. Do you think, Che, at some point, while we're still doing this podcast, when we're 70 years old, do you think we'll actually have a Bendis book back in our top books of the year?
No, I don't. The thing is, because I don't really think Bendis is that interested in writing good comic books anymore. I think that's the biggest problem, is that
I'm not disagreeing with you.
There's just no way a guy who is, even a guy who's read as many comic books as Bendis presumably has been able to put out the dross that he has for the last few years and think it's good. I think the prime example is, so remember when there was the re-release of like the Bendis label? What was it even called on DC? Like, I don't remember, but there was like 3 books at one time, one of which was Pearl, and then one of which was like Scarlet or something, or Red.
Yeah, and it was Scarlet, I think.
And then the other one was like United States of America versus Murder Inc. And we both agreed that United States of America versus Murder Inc. and like Red or Scarlet, whatever, were both C+ books. And Pearl was unreadable. And
yeah, Pearl was really bad.
The thing that he's like carried on with the most, the other 2 ended, and that one continued even on DC. And then when he went over to Dark Horse, he kept publishing Pearl. It was the one that was the worst of the 3 by far. I don't know what's going on with his writing or his like connection to the comic medium anymore, but he seems, I would say, to be kind-ish, incapable of writing good stuff anymore.
You know what? I cannot remember how it ended, and I mean, honestly, that's not a really good sign. But I remember liking Cover. It was the book that he wrote a couple years ago, where like it was a comic book author or writer or artist or writer who goes undercover for like as like part of a U.S. spy thing, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So, but I'm saying that I don't remember much else. But I think that might have been the last thing I remember reading from him.
Is there a chance I got confused with United States versus Murder Inc.? I think.
No, I don't think so. Actually, it's a possibility because it's a possibility, but we did definitely read United States versus Murder Inc.
All right. Yeah. Either way, no. To answer your question, no. I think sadly Bendis is past his prime in a lot of ways, and I'm sort of sad about it, but also I don't know. I just sometimes art leaves you. Like art just like outpaces you. So
yeah, I just think that the comics medium is a bit different, I think, in the way that we're doing like dialogue, and I think it's just like that style that he had was in the mid 2000s, and I still will always recommend, if people are looking for a Spider-Man book to start off with, Ultimate Spider-Man is probably the best modern version of Spider-Man that you can read. And I think his new Avengers run, it might be my favorite Avengers run besides Hickman. But yeah, I just kind of feel like makes me a bit sad that he's included in this list. But you want to talk about some books that are actually good, man?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we're gonna start with honorable mentions first. We split our list into two top fives this year for comic books. We're gonna do top 5 superhero, top 5 everything else. We're starting with a superhero list, so we're gonna do honorable mentions of the books that didn't quite make our best 5 superhero books of the year. Corey, you're up first.
All right. My first honorable mention is going to be so I was just gonna include this on my best superhero list, but I included it last year. I feel like I talk about this book ad nauseum, but Chip Zdarsky's and Marco Checchetto's Daredevil run, which recently relaunched, also had the event Devil's Reign this year, is still my favorite, I think, solo Marvel book going on right now. It's just been consistently like great writing, great art, and I highly encourage anybody to pick it up if you're... I mean, honestly, I think with Marvel Comics, Daredevil's the only person who's had a consistently good writer's run. It's only like, I think maybe 2 bad runs I could think of in the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
But this run has been stellar so far. I don't have a lot more to say to it because I've said it before and over and over again. But Daredevil's really good, that first run, and it leads into Devil's Reign, which is a 5-part series. I think you don't even need any other like tie-ins for this little run. It's great, and then it sends it to another relaunch. I highly check it out. Che, you want to pick up one of yours?
Yeah, actually, I'll do. I also have a Chip Zdarsky book that didn't quite make my list, and that is Batman the Knight, which is his, I guess, Elseworld tale about the like Batman as an orphan growing up. It is beautiful art by Carmine Di Giandimenco. I'm sure I've butchered that name. Apologies, but I just thought this was like a really interesting take on young Bruce Wayne, who I think usually young Bruce Wayne is a mistake. Like exploring the childhood of Batman is strangely not interesting for a character who.
I mean, what are you talking about, Che? We got an entire TV show about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just good. I'm just good on young Bruce Wayne. I don't really know why, but
there has to be a rule. I'm assuming there has to be a rule with DC television that you just can't use Batman. Because I mean, both Gotham exists and also Pennyworth, where it's like we're gonna have TV shows.
Well, originally Pennyworth. So Pennyworth is pre Batman's existence, at least. There's the explanation there.
He's not even born very yet. Fair.
But I think it's all just rights shit, right? But there is young Bruce Wayne in Gotham, right? I only watched like 2 episodes of that show before I was.
He's a major. I mean, I think I watched the first season of it, but what's her name? Jada Pinkett Smith is absolutely the worst part about that show, and it makes it
as usual, to be honest.
She's so bad in that.
Remember
show.
when she was in Matrix Resurrection?
Remember? Yeah, I unfortunately remember.
Jesus Christ!
Oh man, that's definitely going on the worst of list for this year. Well, no, it came out last year.
Last year, yeah.
I'm still gonna talk about
this time last year. I don't have like a ton to say about the Batman the Knight. I think it's another example of, like I've said before, I think Zdarsky's one of the best character explorative writers. Like he does just great character study pieces, and the Knight is an excellent exploration of young Bruce Wayne in a way that I think is fresh and and inventive. For those of you who haven't read it,
no.
I think it's worth checking out. I think we
It's
talked
funny,
about
actually,
your second issue on there.
We did talk about the first issue, and I kind of honestly forgot about it until you just started talking about it. So I'm glad I have an excuse to go back and catch up on the 10 issues that are currently out.
Yeah.
Is it wrapped, Che, or is it still going?
Yes.
You did not answer my question.
Sorry. Yes, it is wrapped. I don't think it's continuing.
Oh, it's
I never
okay.
know with comic books because I'm like, okay, story's over, and then they'll be like, all right, volume 2's kicking off. I'm like, is it? Are we sure? Do we need to keep
It has
going?
been wrapped. Though.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah,
It reached
in
a pretty good conclusion.
Yeah, that was a completely 2022 book. All right, next up on my second honorable mention is a book that we've talked about beforehand, Jeff Lemire and David Wynn's Robin and Batman. A book that I think narrowly skated by both of our list.
Weirdly, although I'm like anti 700 issue comic books, do you think if this book was like 10 issues long, it would have made our top fives?
Yes, I think 3 issues
too
was way
short,
too short,
right? It's too short.
Because he wrote a Robin that was really well done, and I mean I think his Batman was a bit too much of a dick.
But I think the title gives away the fact that this is not a Batman book. This is a Robin book, and Batman is the sidekick, and that's the point.
And I think it does a good job about that. I kind of just, if anything, I mean, like, I wanted more of the book. And it kind of does suck that there's, like, less of the book. And I'm wondering if it's because they wanted to work more on Little Monsters, which, I mean, I'm not blaming them for. I'm really enjoying that book as well. But I'm wondering,
do you think Lemire came to Win and was like, okay, so I know I write 40 comic books at the same time. Do you think you could also do all of this art simultaneously? And Win was like, chill, buddy.
Yeah, that might be what it is. I mean, especially Little Monsters is so much... less colors, but there's so much background drawings with it. So I'm like, maybe they probably couldn't do 2 at the same time.
Yeah.
But I mean, shit. Like, but yeah, I did enjoy. I mean, I probably will end up whenever I see it on shelves, picking up that little quick trade. And I recommend that book.
The hardcover is out because I remember like adding
good.
it to a wish list at one point, but I can't confirm for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely recommend picking up Robin and Batman if you're looking for just a good Robin and Batman book.
Yeah. My last honorable mention is by a man whose name will come up again on this podcast, and that is Matthew Rosenberg's The Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing, which is a Joker book about 2 Jokers. And it is, if you've ever read any Rosenberg book, it is about as fucking weird and fun and batshit crazy as you would expect. And I think Joker's just like a great character to do a book like this with. I think probably the only character this even really works with. But should we jump into our main lists, Corey?
Absolutely. I'll start first. My first book, we're going 5-1.
As any sane person would do. If you ever,
that'd be very funny if they were like, I'm reading my first book.
So it's like number 1 first.
Number book.
Yeah, you need to stop listening to that podcast.
And I feel like, because we were talking about this back and forth, and I felt like I had to include an X-Men book. And my book is X Lives and Deaths of Wolverine. I believe it came out now in one big old copy, but it was 2 miniseries that they kind of combined back into one where it was going back and forth for the story. It's one of those books where I can't lie and say that you can't really jump into this pretty much cold.
You need to do some homework to appreciate this.
Not like a lot of homework, but I mean, I recommended it last year. One of the years, I think it kind of came out 2 years ago. House and Powers of X, which was that flagship book that kind of like restarted the X-Men once Disney was like, yo, we got the rights back again. Where it takes place on the
Remember
fake
when they
island
sold off the X-Men rights to Fox and then they made a bunch of fucking not great movies.
Oh man, then they shut and tried to make Inhumans work, and that didn't work.
Sorry,
and they even made Miss Marvel a fucking mutant. That's how much Inhumans don't work. They were like, okay, we're gonna change it back now. We're sorry. But the book is basically so. God damn, this is gonna sound confusing as hell. In the current X-Men's like timeline, mutants exist on an island called Krakoa, which is a fake island where pretty much it's like very much they've created this whole utopia where they can bring back dead mutants, and it's like they're finally like, you know what, fuck everybody else that keeps trying to kill us. We're gonna go fuck off and do our own thing. And basically this story is Wolverine traveling through time in order trying to stop Crimson, I'm going to say Dynamo, I might be wrong on his name, basically an evil Russian mutant from murdering Charles Xavier's ancestors. I think that's about it.
I was just waiting for you to say more. Sorry. First of all, Crimson Dynamo just got me. That's a fucking great name for a villain.
I hope I'm wrong with that. Che, please go fact check me while I keep talking.
Okay, I'll look it up.
So that's one part of the series is Wolverine basically just traveling through time because he's the only character who really can do that. I mean, once again, like kind of akin to the Days of Futures Past movie. And the other part is the character Moira McTaggart, who was the main star of House and Powers of X, a mutant who can keep basically every time she dies, her life restarts again. And I think she's currently on her like 5th or 6th cycle of trying to prevent the mutant genocide. But the mutants decided that they shouldn't let her keep on doing that and took away her powers of basically being reborn. So basically she goes full on evil, and so that's the other part of the story. I don't want to give too much about it, but I think you guys should give this a read, even if you're not super familiar with it, because I think it's a very just fun Wolverine book, and you quickly pick up on the context clues of what's happening. The Moira McTaggart stuff might be a little confusing, but I think if you read House and Powers of X, and then X Lives and Deaths of Wolverine, it's a really good back-to-back book. I really recommend it. I mean, I love a good Wolverine book, and I think this is one of the better ones I've read in the last couple of years. Benjamin Percy is also writing the ongoing Wolverine book, which is also great. And Joshua Cassara and Federico Vicentini, they both do great jobs in each of their issues. I think they go back and forth because each of them did their own mini-series versions of this. And I think it's funny. I think when I was talking about earlier with the asterisks, there's one asterisk in it, and I think like Wolverine turns into Venom for like a quick second, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? And after a page, I'm like, you know what? We don't need to know what's happening here. Wolverine's a Venom for a couple pages, and we're going to keep it moving.
That's the thing. It's like Hickman loves his fucking charts, but we give Hickman shit for maybe being a bit convoluted. But he will never give you homework. He's not.
Yeah, that's true.
There might be 7,000 charts in his books, but he's not going to give you a bunch of homework that you need to do.
And I will say, I think they're keeping the standard. They introduce this X-Men books where they'll like have like a random like either it's like an email or like a file thing that you can read and kind of gives you a little bit of backstory, like a little bit of a conversation, which really works in this where it's like not a lot of it, but then you'll get like these full conversations you have between these two characters without wasting 2 to 3 pages on it. Which if it was every other page, I'd be really annoyed with it. But I think Percy does it so sparingly that it doesn't get bogged down. It was like I read it all basically in 2 to 3 hours. Really good read if you're just like in the mood for a Wolverine or an X-Men book. Once again, you might be a little bit lost, but it's not too bad, I think, if you kind of want to jump into it pretty. Because, I mean, honestly, I'm also pretty behind on the X-Men books, and that's saying something because I love comic books. But, yeah. If you notice that I did not include Immortal X-Men or X-Men Red or some other X-Men book on this, it's only Wolverine, it's because I did not read them. So get off my fucking back, all right? So, yeah. All right, Che, what's your turn?
There's too many X-Men books, and I've said this year after year. We need to chill, Marvel.
We need to chill, or at least like I just need to be able to go somewhere to be like not an unofficial site. I just need to go somewhere to be like, okay, which X-Men books do I need to read in which order, just so I can at least try, so I can try to understand.
That's the thing. Is actually we've given them shit before, but if the Marvel website was more navigable, it would be easier to read their books too, because you'd be able to understand, like they'd be able to put stuff like what you need to read to understand what's going on here. What's our timeline like as far as these books are concerned? All the information should be available somewhere that we have to go to a weird fandom wiki. Like
exactly. But I will say this though, I will give Marvel credit because I was mentioning how shitty I think the canon is and timeline is and all that bullshit like that. I will say they've kept their X-Men and they kept a consistent story going. And just because I'm behind it, I cannot give them credit. Because I think the story itself is interesting. And I think the entire concept of mutants basically just saying fuck you to the world and kind of just building their own paradise makes a lot of sense. And I also love the whole idea. It's like people are like, those mutants got something we want. Well, they're fucking off somewhere. Might as well blow them the fuck up. So as soon as you're like a superhero, it doesn't fucking matter.
Comic books are stupid, Corey, as we've always said.
Comic books are stupid. Like fucking Cheetah is just a woman who's a fucking furry. And it's just like, that's fine. She's not a mutant.
To be fair, we are anti-furry on this podcast. So.
We are anti-furry on this podcast. And still pretty much anti-blue people having sex. I still don't understand that. Dude, that shit was so weird in Avatar 2. They were
We're
like,
not
this
talking about
alien's
Avatar
hot.
2 today. We're just not doing it.
And I'm like,
Corey.
why is
sorry.
that? Like, no, I was like, and like, I was like, this is weird, man. This is weird.
I'm sorry. We simply can't do it. I have to cut you off. I'm going to talk about my number 5.
Is this gonna be like a big old bleep that
Stop
I just said?
talking about Avatar. If you want to hear more of us talk about Avatar, you can check out our last episode, which was the Avatar Curse of the Rewatch, in which we talked for, I think, like 2.5 hours about the first one.
It was about the same one, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Number 5 for me is the Jeff Lemire, Caitlin Yarsky, as well as later on in the series, Malachi Ward and Matt Sheehan do the art. Black Hammer Reborn, which revisits the Black Hammer universe, one of my favorite outputs by Lemire, a favorite of the podcast. Revisits the series, like, I think it's 20 years in the future.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, after the events of the original series, which, again, if you haven't read the original series, you don't, do you not need it? I think you probably don't need it to come into this one, but
you should read it because it's also a really good book.
Right,
but.
yeah. And it will, it's one of those things that will increase your enjoyment, not decrease it, of the second
Absolutely.
one. And basically, we have our hero in this book it follows much less like a team or ensemble book like the first series was. This is a more solo focused book on Lucy and her struggles with, it's a similar theme to the book, which is like struggling with like being a superhero and having to exist in this world that is like sort of rejecting her existence in a way, and she feels out of place. And it started in 2021, and I think finished in like May of this year. And it's just another example of like Lemire's ability to build rich worlds with his books. And I think even when he's only given, like we were talking about Robin and Batman, one of the things I love about Robin and Batman is how expansive it makes the Gotham universe feel in 3 issues, which is why I just wanted more of it. From that series, and exploring Black Hammer Reborn is just another way to revisit this series that I really, really loved, and this universe I loved, with the Lemire touching again on these characters that are, or it's not specifically these characters, but this universe of characters that he's built, and his commentary on the superhero genre I think is really fascinating, and it's in a way that we've talked about with like Tom King or Grant Morrison too, have books that are sort of referential of the medium in a way that is only really comes from years and years of experience in like writing these characters. And there's a reason that this book is quote unquote Eisner Award winning. So I think it's one of the best things that What's happening?
Black Hammer.
Dark
What's
Horse.
happening to you? Dark
I had
Horse,
like a
there you
mini
go.
stroke there.
I'm like wondering where you were going with that one, man.
It's one of the best things that Dark Horse has to offer right now, and I
Absolutely.
really think it's worth checking out.
Especially with like the lack of, I mean, they're still making Hellboy comics, but especially with like the lack of the main Hellboy universe.
Oh boy, are they still making Hellboy comics? I'm like, every week I go over to Dark Horse to see what's been released, and I'm like, there's 3 new Hellboy books. How?
It's like
What's going on over there?
Yeah, and like Hellboy ended on a great note, and like we got to keep going. I'm like, we could.
And
just
I
leave it
like
alone.
Hellboy, but I do think it's one of
love
those
Hellboy.
things. People give DC shit for this too, and I am more inclined. I would incline to agree with the people that say this, except for I love Batman, but people are like, there's too many Batman books. Why is DC writing all these Batman books that nobody cares about? But I find that I enjoy those Batman books way more than I don't enjoy them. Like, I think usually they're hits more than misses. While I think Dark Horse does this thing with their Hellboy property where it's just like throw a million darts at the wall, and also it's always Mike Mignola, which is like, he's a fine writer, but like every time, like, my guy doesn't want to have one other person write a Hellboy book.
But at the same time, like I kind of do respect the man for being like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna make sure
This
I'm
is
gonna
my
make
series.
sure this is my baby, and y'all aren't gonna fuck with it. And I do respect the shit out of him for that. Because
Although I do think I would lose my mind if I wrote the same exact universe over and over again for what,
it's-
30, 40 years now? Hellboy's
the book says, I think the book's as old as us.
okay, so 1,000.
30 years.
We're
Yeah,
ancient.
shut up. I'm 20.
You don't want to be 20, nigga.
I got my ass kicked by a fucking 7-year-old in Monopoly yesterday, man. My fucking entire spirit's broken.
I'm just gonna keep blazing forward with our top
Sounds
5
good.
list. Next up is Corey's number 4. Corey, you wanna give your
Sure
number
thing.
four to the
And I
people?
think we were just talking about like event books with the Big Two. and I wanted to like at least put this one on here because I really did enjoy it. It's Avengers, X-Men, Eternals, Judgment Day, written by Kieron Gillen. Basically,
I think
kind
you
of
should say Axe because it makes it sound less stupid. I'm sorry.
Okay, fine.
Sorry, Marvel,
Axe.
but like, come on, guys.
A.X.E. Judgment Day.
I love when people like bend over backwards to get an acronym to work.
You know what? God damn it! I just realized that whole shit too, like shield, sword. God
yeah.
damn
It's like the Marvel thing.
Oh man. But as basically it acts as like Kieron Gillen has had a really, really solid Eternals run that's been going on for the last 2 or 3 years, I believe, at this point. And this kind of act as a sequel / finale to that book. The whole concept is the world's coming to an end because like a gigantic celestial showed up and just started judging everybody on their own. They do define what the judgment is criteriaed as. But if anything, I think it's just that each episode or each issue is just a very good look at a specific character, and just like kind of like a really kind of quick character study of them and who they are. And I think Gillen does such a good job about doing this, where it raises the stakes. It actually felt like it was like, oh shit, everything that's happening seems like it's going to have some consequences. And it really does. It felt like for the first time in a while an event book like happened, and the Marvel universe was a bit shook up because of it, of how like destructive this entire force is. I
think it's also good because it leans into where I think Gillen's strengths are as a writer, which is fantasy elements. And he because of the characters in the story the characters he's using in the Marvel canon and the story he's deciding to tell, it is very similar to like the stuff he's done with Image and Dark Horse, where like I said, it's just more fantasy elements, and it's really effective.
It's very. And like even like Eternals, I feel like it could be like science fiction. They're much more like akin to magic to me. Movie, not kind of the movie.
Like we said, there isn't really any difference between soft sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah,
they're sort of the same genre.
Because this is very like harkens back to like Jack Kirby's Jack Kirby created the Eternals, but like Jack Kirby's like the Eternals and like the New Gods saga back from way back in the day, where it's just like it's like fantasy and like basically aliens. But I think Eternals does such a good job with this. So many great character moments in this from like all around. And I mean, even if you're not super familiar with the Eternals, like that's the reason they include the Avengers and the X-Men, right? Because it really does feel like, oh shit, the world's ending, and everyone kind of has a different part to play in it. And when the book ended, I'm like, oh, I'm sad this is over, but that was a great ride, and I can't wait to see how they're going to spin out of this, or what the next step is for Marvel. Because I mean, I don't think I've actually felt that with Marvel since maybe Secret Invasion, where that ended. I was like, this was a really solid event, and that led into like Dark Reign, which was a really good event. So a really good like saga of Marvel comics. But I think it's like it puts superheroes on their back foot, which I think makes when Marvel does its best, when the kind of superheroes are a little bit like falling back, especially against like both like the bad guys, but also society in general. Was really good book. Yeah.
Did you not get the same? I sort of got this with Avengers versus X-Men, but maybe to a lesser extent, or X-Men versus.
I just kind of think this is written a bit better than Avengers versus X-Men.
I agree. The book is better, but I think the stakes felt really well fleshed out in that book, even though I didn't think the dialogue was great.
I think you are right though, because I think it did lead into a very interesting. Well, the dialogue was fucking Mr. Bendis. But I think
that's my point.
But I think that did definitely lead into a very interesting era of the X-Men. Unfortunately, it was cut short because Marvel's like, we're going to make everything Inhuman now. But that I digress on that point. But this felt like a very good, like, synergy-esque, like, kind of part of Marvel. And I'm very happy to feel I'm really happy to have read it. I'm really excited to go back and reread it again in one just sitting. But it's been a while since I've actually been excited about an event book. Because I was kind of like when I heard it coming out, I'm like, yeah, this kind of sounds stupid. But because I was really worried it was going to be like the Avengers versus the X-Men versus the Eternals. Because I'm like, all these factors have reasons to be against each other.
Right.
But that's not what they do. And I think that was the best way to do it. It was like, oh, wait, these people have some antagonizing pits against each other. But that's not really where the book leads to. Because at the end of the day, it's like, we don't want the Earth to die.
Yeah. There's a version of this book, like you're saying, that was really cheap. Really cheap.
Yes, there is, and I was worried about that.
Flat.
But especially what like Kieron's like kind of set up in his book, where I was thinking about like, I mean, Eternals definitely has this like we're fighting Thanos moment, but that makes sense though, but it's like the book really isn't about like the whole punching, and it's a lot more exploration of like who the Eternals are as a character, which is a lot easier to tell in a longer medium. Which is Che and I kind of like our point about the Eternals movie is that this should have been a TV show. And I felt like this is what
still the biggest miss of Phase 4, I think.
Yeah, and I think like that this is like a good kind of version of like that, where like we take our times with each of these characters and we learn more about them. And as much as I liked Neil Gaiman's version of the Eternals back in the day, I liked his Eternals run a bit more because the characters are a bit more fleshed out. And I don't want to give away the big twist that happens in the Eternals book because I think you guys should definitely go read it. But I think that book is like very much hit like a couple oh shit moments. And I felt like the end of this little run of his was like, okay, this is good. I'm excited to see what he's doing next. And this was the first time, like, I think Kieron Gillen as a writer has very much like kind of wowed me. And yeah, no, I mean, I'm like, very excited to see what he does next in Marvel. I really haven't, I forgot, I should have looked up what he's going to be working on next in Marvel, but I think A.X.E. Judgment Day was great, and Eternals was really good too. So I think if you guys are looking for a good Marvel book, I think definitely check out Eternals, definitely lead into A.X.E. It's a lot less complicated than the X-Men, I'll tell you that much. That's just 2 books, but yeah, no, it's, you know, it's funny though. I was thinking about it now, man. Like, besides like the Avengers line and those main characters, I think Marvel's not doing too bad when it comes to these kind of like, besides like X-Men and Eternals, and these little side parts are pretty good. But those main superhero books, I can't co-sign really most of them. Like the Avengers book currently right now, I'm not a big fan of. Not a big fan of the Hulk. Not a big fan of Spider-Man right now.
Yeah, what happened with the Hulk book?
Well, Immortal Hulk ended.
Right, but why is it bad now?
Yeah, because I think it's such a hard act to follow, honestly. Because Immortal Hulk was like one of the best book Marvel's put out in like years.
Yeah, it's sort of the same thing that happened with Venom. Like now, Venom just seems really bland. I stopped.
Well, Donny Cates fucking was just like, let me just go fucking buck wild with this one, and then he just that man went insane with Venom, and I did enjoy it, but I like it like in a good way. It was good insanity, but
I do think it sort of lost its effectiveness after a while, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, when Venom became like a flying space demon and just kind of fought with a sword against the essence of evil, it was like, okay, all right, this is all right, cool. Yeah. I did like it because I feel like they were like, we got to make a Venom book, but we don't want to include Spider-Man as much as possible because that's not how our movies are going to be working with Venom going forward. So right. I kind of thought that was interesting. As someone who's not seen the Venom movies, Che, does he ever like web sling?
You have to, Cory, one, watch the Venom movies.
No.
I don't understand.
I'm going to go watch Art like Black Adam.
But no, he does not. He doesn't web sling. It's honestly, the movies are mostly him eating chicken. It's very weird.
That doesn't make me want to watch it.
I didn't say you should want to watch them for the quality. You should just want to watch them because I don't know, because you have to. I think you have.
No, I don't have to.
Yeah. All right, fair enough.
All right, Che, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is brought to you by Ram V and Christian Ward. Excellent artistic team.
First time mentioning Ram V
on this podcast, but Ram V did do one of my favorite books from last year, The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, who you will see on many people's list from this year because the trade came out this year, but I'm not a cheater like all those people, and I only care about when comic books are released. But no, actually, you should pick up that book. It's fantastic. I will say, I think The Many Deaths of Layla Starr is better than Aquaman and Andromeda if you're picking just one, but you don't need to just pick one. You can read both.
No, we can read many comic books at once. That's what I read, probably about 100 issues in the last 3 days, and my brain's broken.
Yeah, December and November is usually like rough for me, mostly because I'm like a massive procrastinator. But the thing I love about Aquaman and Andromeda is, as we've said before in this podcast, or at least I've said, is horror is very, very difficult to do in comic form. I think if you watch a horror movie, one of the things they always say to do is like watch a horror movie and watch it muted and see how little you are scared. And a lot of what happened, like the fear receptors in your brain and like the way people are scared is because of sound. And so to write something that's truly creepy and effective on a medium that doesn't have sound is challenging, if not near impossible. And Aquaman and Andromeda, both on the back of Ram V's excellent pacing and the way that he writes both Aquaman, who is sort of like a secondary character in this book, really. But the way he writes this creepy ass world of the like basically the sea and this alien they're exploring, and Christian Ward's art, who I will take this time to plug once again, maybe my favorite Marvel book of the last decade, the Black Bolt book that he worked on with Saladin Ahmad. And I just think this team has really found something super effective in this book. And it reminds me a lot of the Lemire Wynn partnership, where art is complementing script so well and so effectively that it's just like it seems almost obvious in hindsight that oh yeah, clearly these two guys should have been working together forever, but it's not exactly how things work. It takes a real brilliant mind to come up with this, and I love this book a lot. I wouldn't be turned off. It's another one of those books that's like not super, it's not canon. Like you don't need to know what's going on with Aquaman to really appreciate the book. It's mostly him fighting the fucking Kraken. So
I think you had it's like at some points it's just like, you know, the general idea of Aquaman, right? Like, yeah, okay, you're fine.
Yeah. That's a good point. If you know who Aquaman is, you got enough information to read this book. So
it's like, you know, the Flash is right. Yeah, he runs fast. That's all you fucking need to know, man. That's all you need to know sometimes.
I think one of the hardest skills as a script writer in comic books is knowing when to and not to use text. And that will come up later in one of my favorite books on my other list, where I think is probably the best example of letting the art speak for itself. And I think that for somebody, I honestly can't even fathom it. Like writing a comic very and then having to pass off so much of the storytelling to another person would take so much trust that I don't know if I even have that in me.
It's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, I have to imagine it would be. And for Ramvi and Ward to have this sort of trust that it would take to create pages like if you're watching the YouTube video, I'm going to plug it right now, like you're seeing on your screen right now, which is so reliant on Ward's ability to map out this scene, and this moment is so important to the plot going forward, and Ramvi uses so little text on the page. I think it is a feat of artistic cooperation that I find fantastic, and that those are my favorite comics, when you can see the harmony between writer and author. Obviously I find it incredibly impressive when it's just like one guy or one woman in a room doing all of it, and like that's obviously incredible in itself, but it's I find it obviously differently impressive when you have to really collaborate with somebody like this. And the marriage between the Ramvi's script and his character creation and the art is perfection. So
don't really see many of those people doing double down, at least in Western media. It's a lot harder, I feel like.
Well, I think a lot of that is because of the demand of turnover.
That's true.
It obviously takes longer to do both, and if you're working with DC and Marvel, unless your name is Jeff Johns, you can't take a year to write a book. So,
and I don't think Chip Zdarsky's like done like a book that he's drawn in a really long time.
It's just public domain, right?
Does he draw?
I thought he did.
Domain?
Maybe I don't know. Talking out of my ass.
No.
But yeah, I like I said, I love Aquaman Andromeda. If you're not familiar with it, you should definitely go pick it up. So.
All right, so I'll take my number 3 then. All right, so for my number 3, I did Action Comics, specifically the War World saga, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson.
First appearance of either Action or Detective Comics on these lists ever in the history.
I think so.
It's gotta be, I think.
But this little quick arc really won me over. It's kind of a bit of a sequel to a book that Che and I talked about, Superman and the Authority, that came out earlier this year, written by Grant Morrison.
Their last work with DC.
I believe so.
At least for the time being.
Allegedly.
I'm still hoping that's not the case, but that is the plan as far as they said. So.
And that book's great by itself too. It's a quick little read, but this book the pitch is, what if Superman was thrown onto a John Carter type of plot line where he's trapped on a planet, doesn't have his powers as much, and he has to fight against monsters in a gladiatorial setting while also trying to overthrow a tyrannical king.
Remember when Disney just didn't do John Carter? They just like tried and they didn't do it instead.
I think they had no idea what they wanted to market it as, and I think that was the problem.
They were
like,
lost.
This movie's called John Carter. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck John Carter is. Like, why do I want to go see this movie? Like, at least with John Wick, they had the trailers like, this guy, he's going to kill people because they killed his dog. I'm like, that's fine.
Well, that's the thing is, I think a story like this, like you just described this, and it's like, it's just like feels like a lot of other stories you've heard before. We've made a joke about Avatar not that long ago. Avatar is a lot like John Carter. So is Pocahontas. So is Dances with Wolves. But when it's done well, the story can be very effective. Like Fish Out of Water stories are some of the best, or some of the most tried and true narrative vehicles that we have in the English canon. It doesn't need to be Avatar or Dances with Wolves. It could be Action Comics. I couldn't think of another better one. I couldn't think of one that was good besides this one. Sorry, I blanked.
Yeah, no, but it's very awesome. You get like it's a whole like our team's trapped. We got to get out of here. We're on a planet we don't fully understand, and it's a lot of like
sick
fighting monsters. Yeah, the art's amazing. It just feels. It's just like it's really fun when you can take a character and you put him in like a very familiar character and put him in a situation that's a bit over their head and have them use mostly like Superman's like mostly using his brains as a way to get out of it. I love a book where they can make Superman an interesting character, which is very hard to do. But when Superman's
toughest superhero to do that for and
I think that's the hardest thing about Superman. And I'm not gonna get on my tangent about this where everyone's like he's a boring character. No, you've just kind of never really gotten an interesting story with him. And I think that's one of this Warworld saga is one of those stories where it's like Superman and see him with his back against the wall as he tries to get his way out of the situation with a lot of very interesting side characters. Really good book. I just straight up enjoyed this. I thought it was just a really solid superhero book. Really recommend. Like I think the trades might be coming out soon. But definitely give it a read.
Yeah, I mean, we shouted out the art, but I just want to mention again Riccardo Federici and Will Conrad, who I don't think we said their names, and I think a lot of what is really successful about this arc is the art is beautiful.
Yeah, no, the art's bonkers.
Is there any chance it's actually colored pencil? Because it obviously is meant to look like colored pencil, but I can't imagine it's not digital, right? That's like such a fucking pain in the ass to do in 2022.
I really can't imagine. I feel like it has to be digital, but I think it's just the way they do it. I mean, like that's just a really good colorist, honestly. So, with something else that really does get lost in it. But also, I mean, like if you're gonna go through this, though, like especially a lot of the covers of it, just amazing. It's just really, really fun. It's just like Conan the Barbarian, like a lot of like that old school Sword and Stone comic books that I'm not a really huge fan of, but I'm like aware of. And I think this was like,
I think a lot of those are just, the problem with them is not that they weren't good at the time, is that they've aged really poorly.
Yeah. But, no, it really does feel like, it's just feel like a good mashup of like Superman with like a Conan the Barbarian, John Carter of Mars kind of vibe. And I think if you were just into some kind of like brutal, there's definitely an electric guitar solo being played in the background kind of vibe, I really recommend this book.
It's just
what? It's like that.
No, it's a fair. I know exactly what you mean. As somebody who has read it, as somebody who hasn't, I can't imagine those words mean much of anything to them.
It's fucking metal, man. That's what it means, bro.
Fair enough. It is fucking metal.
It's like that scene that's like, it's basically just that. There's a magic, like that scene from Mad Max where the guy's just playing the guitar, and it's like that vibe.
Which do you think has a more cachet in our modern psyche as a metal scene? The Mad Max scene, which obviously is the best of these two, or the Stranger Things scene?
Mad Max, because I mean it's fucking insane. It's very insane because it's just like
the yellow spray paint is like quietly genius filmmaking by George Miller, because it's so psychotic. You're like, oh, these guys are crazy, and then it visually is incredible. You're like, oh, his mouth is shiny now. Great.
But it's like at a certain point, it's like is that guy playing a guitar? And it's like that guy's playing a guitar. But Stranger Things scene was also awesome. Just there's also a damn waste of a character. Stranger Things.
Why do it?
I don't know.
Speaking of brutal killings, my number 3. And this is G. Willow Wilson and Marcio Takara's Poison Ivy, which started out as a miniseries and then was so good that DC was like, actually, can we have more, please? And I'm really glad they expanded it because, speaking of earlier, I was talking about Chip Zdarsky's Batman the Night and like just a great character exploration. I don't know if there's ever been, for me, expectation versus payoff difference going into a book. Like I don't super care about Poison Ivy. I think she's like especially in our modern times, a really effective villain, and can be used really well. I don't have a lot of opinions on her, but the way that Wilson writes this book and this character is just incredible. And one, like I said, it is brutal. Like, you're just going to watch a lot of people die, which is not for everybody, but is definitely for me. And on top of that, Takara's art is fantastic. Now, my only complaint about this book is I wish it had overlapped more with the Poison Ivy Harley Quinn story. You get a lot of flashbacks in the book, and it's just one of my favorite relationships in DC Comics right now, or maybe ever.
I agree with that.
I think it's just two characters that are so great, and it's just like indicative of the history of comic books that obviously that's become a lot of what Harley Quinn is about, is like the response to the patriarchy of comic books and comic book fandom and all that stuff. And I think their partnership really sings on the page.
Also, I mean, like, it's also fantastic on in the cartoon series as well.
Yeah.
The current HBO Max series.
Yeah, another one that if you're not watching, you should be checking out. I think Wilson. We talked about her, Miss Marvel.
I mean, these books have so much in common. I got to tell you, man. Miss Marvel and this is like honestly same category.
Much darker. This is a much darker version of the book, but it's a similar like character study of these two, like talk about fish out of water stories. These two people come into terms with like. They're actually, I would say they're like different on the spectrum in that like Miss Marvel is discovering her place in the world, and Poison Ivy is like trying to destroy it and like burn it to the ground because she hates the world, and that changes over the course of the book.
You know what's funny about Batman and Robin the movie? It includes two of my favorite Batman villains. And
Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy.
Two of my favorite Batman villains, and it's just
two of the worst portrayals of them too. And I
absolutely, and I really think Uma Thurman's like on paper that's really.
Well, it's not
casting.
It's not her fault. The movie, it's not her fault.
No, not at all. Not at all. That movie is. I think every line in that movie is a pun or an innuendo, and it's very frustrating to watch.
It's so weird to think about. Like, that's what comic book movies used to be. Like. It's just dumb. Goofy and campy and weird. And if you ever try to release a comic movie like that today, like we sort of saw with Thor: Love and Thunder, they will just be unimaginable backlash. People just be like, "What are you doing?" But yeah, I mean, this is not that tonally. No, it has obviously some humor in it, but
it's mostly like I would even describe it as a horror book, honestly, to a certain extent, especially definitely some body horror.
Yeah, I mean, especially early on when she's just walking around diners murdering civilians. Yeah, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I also love. I think it's one of the
more men need to die, so this book's pretty good for that.
I mean, you're not going to hear me disagree with that. I do think the thing that's really effective about this book, and I'm usually a staunch anti voiceover, but the internal nature of the story, the way that it's sort of all existing in Poison Ivy's head, and also and like in her head in the future. This is all narrative from the past. Is the format from which it's told. It really works to explore the character's internal journey throughout the book. I think Wilson has stumbled on a really great formula here that I would love to see her just do this with more characters. If she wanted to do like a Harley Quinn book, although I do love the Harley Quinn ongoing. I think the Harley Quinn ongoing is great. But I'd be super down for Wilson to just get her hands on more characters like this in DC and Marvel.
She's a great writer. I'm always excited whenever I see her name pop up. She's such a good writer. I mean, yeah, her and Ram V are definitely like kind of that modern wave of writers that I like love to see more and more books. And it's the reason I also mentioned Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze just gone from comic books.
I was just gonna say, no, I kind of saw like a bit. Somebody posted a bit of the most recent issues of Detective Comics, which Ram V is writing, and it was just like fucking amazing dialogue is. Like two or three pages of it, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to go read this series absolutely immediately because of how good this dialogue is. So that's something I'm gonna probably.
He's one of the best. He's
one of the best, and I'm gonna be reading that probably as soon as this episode's over.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm gonna rush this along and go to number 2 for me.
All right, go for it.
So speaking of Batman, so we have Batman, Superman, World's Finest, written by Mark Waid and art by Dan Mora. Before I get into the content itself, the art by Dan Mora is just very good comic book art. It's like I don't know how to describe it in a way. It feels like it's throwing itself back to like old school art, but everything's just so clean and well done. It just feels like it's kind of timeless in a sense where
It's
I
like
don't
the
know.
art if you were like at an art book and you went to the comic book chapter of the art book, this is what it would be.
This is what it would be. Like this is how do I draw like a perfect art book where everything
it's real
looks
classic shit. Yeah.
looks classic, looks great. But this is, I don't even know if it's canon or whatever, but it's definitely like the most fun I've had with a comic book. Where I'm not saying the entire ride is a joyful thing, but each issue was just great takes on the characters. Like Mark Waid has already been proven time and time again how he's so good with these characters, and it just feels so. Each issue just feels great, and everything just feels like it works so well. Like the chemistry he builds between Batman and Superman isn't even like the best part about the book. Then you have like also Robin and Supergirl that works, and then he introduces the Teen Titans, and each of these character developments and dynamics are just so well done that I'm just, every time a new issue comes out, I'm just excited to see the next one. A book,
You know
that
what
I
it sort of
didn't
reminds
even-
me of?
Yeah. What's that?
Less quirky, but sort of, for some reason, maybe because the art, maybe because the obviously like the style of storytelling reminds me a lot of Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen.
It does give a sense of that, yeah, where it's like yeah, you're right. It's not as quirky, but it's definitely
It's
kinda
like real.
gives me
It's
that
like real
whole,
classic comic book vibes. It feels
Exactly.
like golden age or silver age comic books but in an updated style. So
which I kind of like. I think it's supposed to take place, I suppose, in the past because Dick Grayson's still Robin.
Yeah.
So I think that's also kind of like a bit of a throwback to it. Because all the costumes feel like retro and everything feels a little bit old,
yeah, and there's
but
still
at the same
carnivals.
time,
We don't allow carnies anymore. We killed all of those off, so it has to be in the past.
it has to be. That makes sense, right? Those damn carnies. But no, like I mean, honestly, like I think like if you're like I need a comic book to read right now, kind of like I want to read like a Batman book. I just want to read a superhero book. I might point you to this one.
You're saying you would not give the Killing Joke to first-time comic book readers. Is that what you're saying?
Oh no, I give Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Asylum, you just scare them off from the medium
listen,
forever.
guys. If you guys need to read a first superhero book, make sure you pick up Watchmen, and that's
Yeah, you'll
Joking.
get all of it. You'll get all the references. You'll understand what's really brilliant about it.
I should have do believe that Zack Snyder read Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, and it's just like, you know what, I get the medium.
No, I mean, you say you think that's clearly what happened. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
it's very evident from the movies that he's made that he's read 2 comic books and that's it. But no, I mean, I was joking. But I do think that this is like a really great, like just classic comic book fare. I mean,
It just feels like classic, yeah.
yeah. And I think the thing about DC that's really great is they still have over Marvel, even in the movies, despite the fact that they don't seem to be able to capitalize on it, they just have the characters that really pop off the page. If you can really get a Batman, Superman book to work, it's better than anything you're ever going to get anywhere else in comic books, really.
I think if any, like, speaking of Zack Snyder, I feel like this book is like what I wanted a Batman Superman movie to be.
Yeah. Yes.
Just like, because they're like, they have like some of like one of the best like chemistry in any like comic book duo, and it's like they just work so well off of each other because they're different, and it's not because they want to punch each other's fucking.
The two different opposites of the same coin. This man who has all of the powers, who is unimaginably strong and of another world, with a guy who, besides being a trillionaire, is normal. Is just like a guy.
Yeah. And just a guy, and like one of them is just very optimistic, and the other one's cynical as shit, and that just works because that's good character dynamics. And you know what you don't do in a fucking movie? You don't make Superman fucking a cynic because Batman's also the cynic. It's just so bad.
But what if we give him a mustache, Corey? How about that?
That would have made it better.
Why were they so anti-Superman having a mustache that they spent billions of dollars to scrub
Superman's
it off
had
his face?
Superman's had a beard in the comics too. Superman had a fucking mullet at one point. Why can't Superman just rock a stash? That'd be kind of funny. It'd be pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Why didn't they just bring him back with a beard? That was stupid. It's just stupid.
Especially because of how sad he is. You could be like, this is my sad beard.
He died. Like, you can come back with a fucking beard. Like, we didn't fucking need him. Man, I'm happy we're rebooting everything. I love Henry, but I mean, I'm glad we're rebooting everything.
Yeah. I mean, part of me is like, it's going to be sad because I think I have this experience with Andrew Garfield all the time where, like, I think Andrew Garfield has been lost to time, not because Andrew Garfield was bad at being Spider-Man, but because he got fucking shafted by bad Spider-Man movies.
Absolutely. I think the same thing happened with Henry Cavill. And I don't think James Gunn got rid of him as a very, like, without, like, a lot of consideration. But the truth be told is the man's getting older, and he was not his fault that his three Superman movies that he starred in were all trash.
Yeah.
Not his fault at all. But yeah. Che, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is the Cliff Chiang miniseries Catwoman Lonely City. Takes place in another DC Elseworld book that takes place either 10 or 20 years, I can't remember how long it's been, after the death of Batman, presumably at the hands of Selina. Obviously, that's not the case. But
what? Really?
It is just like, I mean, Chiang, the writing of this book is just great. Talk about another book that has real, like, Superman's pal. It's another book that's not Superman's pal, Batman, Superman, World's Finest vibes, where, like, it's not that dark, which I know I'm, like, the dark guy on the podcast, but it is, like, a really enjoyable read, and it's this exploration of this character who is different than you've ever seen her before. One, because she's, like, old now. A lot of this book is about her return from prison and, like, trying to literally get back into shape. There's even, like, a great training montage with her and Killer Croc that I love. Killer Croc is like, my hips don't work, which is fucking great. It's refreshing because as we've always talked about, a lot of the issues that I have with DC and Marvel comic books, and the canon ones in particular, is that they don't have any stakes because these characters are invincible and invulnerable and immortal. And that no matter what happens, in 20 years, Superman's going to look exactly the same. In 100 years, Superman and Batman will look exactly the same, which in a way is comforting, and you can really tell interesting stories in that too. But I think I love about Lonely City is it's in itself, because one, it is about the death of Batman, but also we're watching a character struggle with her own mortality, which, I mean, the human frailty is the foundation of all interesting stories. And Selina's character in this book and her, like, reintegration into a world that doesn't even recognize her and that she doesn't even recognize is a fantastic story arc. And in 4 issues, Cliff Chiang manages to capture something that I don't think, like, most comic writers could pull off in 50. And the efficiency with which he tells this story, and, like, the ingenuity with his use of character and words, and, like, we get to see so much fun stuff on the page too. I love the way this book reads on the page, and I love I just really think it's a super effective exploration of another DC character that I think a lot of people don't have a great relationship with, or even, like, any relationship with at all.
Yeah, and I think, the current Catwoman ongoing is fucking garbage too, so it's kind of hard to, like, even jump to that. But I mean, I think I don't know if I mentioned this to the podcast, but I've always felt that, like, Cliff Chiang is, like, if I could have somebody, like, draw a comic book for me, he would be my number one choice. I mean, obviously because I love Paper Girls so much, but I never really experienced his writing until this book. And the man can write.
Yeah.
And we were talking about kind of, like, how rare it is to have, like, a creator do both. And I think it's a bit cheating when the guy who does art this good
Yeah.
also is a good writer as well.
I also think it helps if you do 4 issues over, like,
That's
I think this took like 5 months or something. So, like, that's we were talking about. The reason that most people don't get to do this is they don't get the luxury of time. But if you're a guy like Cliff Chiang, and I have to imagine DC editorial read these pages and they were like, well, listen, you take all the time you need, because this is one of the best things they've released in years. I think it's such an effective use of, like, a lot of the DC canon that they're trying to really transfer on a screen. Or, like, imagine if we got this as a Catwoman movie or book, or TV show. Like,
that sounds interesting. Yeah. No, that sounds really interesting. I think that's
they'll
a
never do it because they just keep making fucking Black Adam with The Rock. So
who fucking knows, man? Come on, James Gunn, please. Who fucking knows though? Fuck you, David Zlad, whatever the fuck your last name is.
Zaslav.
Fucking asshole.
Dave Zaslav is not listening to this podcast because David Zaslav is too busy watching like home improvement television or whatever the fuck he does.
Gotta love them Republicans. All right. Alrighty then. My number one pick for my favorite superhero comic book of this year is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, written by Tom King, with art by, oh my God, wow, Corey. Art by Bilquis.
I do
Evely.
love Bart by though. Bart's great.
Bart by. I mean, we did talk about this book briefly last year.
It was on my rankings because we got the first 5 of the 8 issues here. I was glad Corey put it on his list again because I think just talking about Catwoman Lonely City, I think this is another book that's like takes a character that a lot of people don't have a ton of relation to and puts her in a story that is just so incredibly refreshing. And I just I also think it's cheating because Tom King is like, this is what Tom King does. He writes 12 issue, or like, this isn't 12, but he writes mini series about your favorite characters and turns them into a thing that you never really thought they were. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll let you go. This is your number one, so you do your thing.
No, sure. Like, I think I love it on a lot of factors. First off, it's just a very easy ripoff on a lot of Westerns, where we just have a character who's looking for revenge. Is this, what is it, True Grit? Is it True Grit?
I mean, it is a lot of Westerns. I think, yes, it's probably True Grit.
But it's True Grit. But like, so the concept is like, we have a character who's looking to get revenge for the death of her father.
I mean, to be fair, this is the Odyssey. It's like everything, but everything is the Odyssey at a certain
Absolutely.
point.
Yeah, very fair. But a character looking to avenge the death of her father, and she needs some help. And she ends up in a bar and runs into a very drunk Supergirl, which is a really funny sentence in general.
But it's such a great introduction scene too. You're like, oh, okay, is this what we're gonna be doing? And then it turns out this is like just a joyful, like a meet cute in a way. I love it so much. One of my favorite issue, like number ones of last year, was Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow #1.
But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, man. It's like the art's fantastic too, and it's just a really fun journey with these two characters. I don't want to give too much away for the story because I mean it was just a really fun ride, but I gotta say, like, it was something that I didn't even really have on my radar too much. And I remember last year, I remember reading a couple issues after we talked about it, but I kind of forgot about it until a couple months ago, because they didn't. I think DC really didn't promote it very much, but it's just such a really, really strong book. It might be one of my favorite Tom King books at this point, just because of like it feels like it's just so much of his journey together without making his. I'm not trying to be a usual dick, but like his usual like deep dive, like let's all be sad together kind of book. And it just showed how good he is as an adventure comic writer, and just putting this character that we all know into an environment where you can pretty much have a sandbox with it, and also just have some incredible dialogue and some really fun characters. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I think it's the flip side of the Lonely City coin, where like the thing that's really cool about Catwoman Lonely City is that it's really steeped in the canon. The best thing is like, and every time you turn a page you could come across a new Batman character that you like, a new B tier or C tier Batman character. And Woman of Tomorrow takes Supergirl and puts her in a world that you are completely unfamiliar with, and like basically is flying her around the world. She's experiencing new characters. A book that reminds me of a lot is Jason Aaron's Thor, the Jane Foster Thor, that it's like just traveling the globe, or not the globe, but like the universe, coming across different and more interesting characters issue by issue. And yeah, I don't know. I think I tease it a little bit at the beginning, but I mean, Tom King is like one of the best to ever do it, and we're gonna see why in a second. That like,
yep.
He's in a way a little bit unmatched at the moment. I think there's not a lot of people doing stuff like this.
I agree with you, and let's like jump over to your book too. But I got this, like, I will say this for you guys though: read the first issue, because I think the introduction for Supergirl is great, where it's her 21st birthday and she just wants to get drunk, so she has to go to a planet where she's not a superpowered person. And I think that's just such a fun idea. Just like her even being drunk, where I like saw the line, it's just like, I don't steal because stealing's wrong. But and like it's just a very like fun character where it's just like Superman but sloshed. And that's fun.
Have we ever seen Superman get drunk in a book?
I'm sure there's some weird ass kryptonite that got him drunk or whatever, but you know. No, there was a really good comic where he's pretending to be Bruce Wayne and he accidentally gets drunk and like, I think Deathstroke's trying to kill him the entire issue, but he just can't murder him because he's Superman.
Corey, what are you talking about?
There's a Batman and Superman comic written by Jeff Loeb in the late 2000s where this happens.
Just sounds like you're having a stroke, man.
Why does my brain work like this?
I don't know, but you just remember the wildest shit. All right, let's talk about my number one.
And I'm really bad with people's names too. That's the fucking problem. I think my brain's just like over processed with stupid ass shit at this point.
Tom King, double number one on the superhero top 5 lists of the XM1 podcast. We have his run with Greg Smallwood on The Human Target, which, listen, to be 100% fair, this book is great in a vacuum. Obviously, I think that. But also, it's like made in a lab of like things I love. It's basically a comic noir book, which I think you see very, very rarely, and then when you do see it, it's not good. And it's like a murder mystery where the reveal is in the first issue, and then it's about like piecing together how we got here. And it takes this character that I thought I had a real relationship with because, and this will be the last time I ever mentioned the show on the podcast, the Human Target show on TNT is like one of my favorite shows from middle school. And I was like, all right, I know Human Target. Let me pick up this Tom King book. And I was like, oh, wait, no. As usual, all the adaptations from our youth have like actually nothing to do with the character.
No, not at all.
The book or the character at all. And this book, aside from being like just like a incredible example of a genre that I think is like lost to time, unfortunately, even in cinema, like I talked about See How They Run, a movie that will unfortunately not make my top 10. Unfortunately, I mean, whatever, will not make my top 10 this year, but a movie I fucking loved because it's just like they don't make shit like that anymore, and I wish they did. This is that sort of story. It's like you've got a perfect femme fatale, you've got a great protagonist, and you've got an excellent mystery box, all written with just like laser sharp dialogue. Tom King has a knack for these characters in this book that I don't.
And also, like, it's just like the fact of a whodunit, and like the whodunit's like the cast of Justice League International. And it's
right.
Like, yeah, no, that's perfect. Like one of my favorite superhero lineups of all time.
Well, and then you find out who probably did it very early on. You're like, oh, so this is not even a story about the whodunit. It's like a story about the piecing together your life after it's fallen apart. I don't know. And I'm a cynic masquerading in a
No, really?
a sentimental's body. And I love a good love story, and they're very, 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 very rare in comic books. And I think this is like a great love story. I think these two characters have incredible chemistry on the page, as evidenced by the fact they literally drop in one of the worst DC characters ever. Fucking what's my man's name? The dickhead Green Lantern in the book.
Oh, Guy Gardner.
Yeah. And he's like doesn't even interrupt
me-
the flow. I love it.
I will say this Guy Gardner has had some great runs in comics, and I just don't want to be.
No. I don't mean he's a bad character. I mean,
no, he's a dickhead.
He's a great dickhead.
This era of all those characters, it's like just really funny about like those characters around then. It's like Guy Gardner and Booster Gold are just fucking like the worst characters.
How did you feel about Booster Gold in this book? Because I know you're a big Booster fan, but man, they did him. Here's
my thing about Booster Gold is the reason I like him, and the reason I just despise the New 52 so much is just like he had so much great character development because he was a horrible like dickhead basically. And then you get to the point where he's a good character. And that's what I enjoyed about the character. Him and Guy Gardner, because they both grew up. And so this era of it, I accept.
Not in this book.
Nope. That's why I got very annoyed with Tom King when he did the Batman book. I'm like, this is this era of Booster Gold, and you made him a fucking idiot, you jackass. But that's different.
I will say, if you are, obviously that's why I have it number one, but if you're somebody who's like not a big comic book person at all, and you're looking to pick up one of the books on my list, this is the one for you. I think it's such great, not entry level. Entry level makes it feel like it's like less than. It's just like a universally beloved story that I think is so easy to connect with. I will say, giving Cory credit, if you're picking just one from both of our lists, you got to go with Woman of Tomorrow. I think Supergirl is just so fucking fantastic. But
well, I mean, Human Target's not done yet.
No, yeah, it's also not done yet.
Yeah. So
we
it's not
are
done
9
yet.
issues deep. That's why I felt good enough to put it on my list.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. So, I mean, I think guys in general probably will do an honorable mention next year, I'm assuming, unless everything just goes to shit in the end. I doubt that, though.
We got 3 issues left. I can't imagine it unless suddenly it becomes a different book.
So, I think keep an eye out for the end of that trade paperback would probably end up hitting the shelves around like probably April or May next year.
The reason I felt good about putting it on here is because I don't actually think the ending, although it is like a mystery book, I don't think the ending of this book is actually that important to my enjoyment of it. So much of what is effective about this book is Tom King's writing of these characters, especially the Human Target and Ice. I think those are like the relationship between those two characters is like sings off the page. Yeah, I mean, I know there's 3 more to go. I would be shocked if it gets drastically worse. It could even get way, way better. But yeah, I think that's why I have it at number 1. I love Lonely City. It was a real struggle for me to which one I wanted to put 1 or 2. But I just landed on Human Target because I think 1, it just speaks to me personally more than any of the other ones do. But should we do a quick rundown of our 2 lists before we take a quick break?
Sure thing. I'll go first then. All right, number 5. I have X Lives and Deaths of Wolverine. I'm pretty sure it should be collected by now. We got A.X.E, Judgment Day, the Marvel comic event. Number 3, Action Comics, specifically the War World Saga, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson. Number 2, Batman Superman World's Finest, and my number 1 pick of the year is Supergirl Women of Tomorrow.
My list, number 5, Black Hammer Reborn by Jeff Lemire. Number 4, Aquaman Andromeda by Ram V. Number 3, G. Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy. Number 2, Catwoman Lonely City by Cliff Chiang. And my number 1 pick is the Tom King, The Human Target book. Yeah, it was when I went into this, I was telling Corey, I was like, I am going to struggle to get 5 superhero books. And I will say, it was harder to get to 5 superhero books than it was to get to 5 other books. But the 5 I have here, I love. I think these are just 5 incredible books. If you're looking to pick anything up,
I think I was
grab
the
all
same.
10 of these, to be honest.
And I definitely read a lot more superhero books than you do.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I'm just.
But I really want to be like, what books did I love this year? Because a lot of books that I read this year, I really liked. And I mean, I forgot to give a shout out to like Nightwing. I really liked it, but I'm like, I didn't have that book. And I feel like there was these 5 that I put down here. None of these were like, feeling. I think everyone I put down here, I really recommend you guys giving a shot. And I put the ones I feel like took a lot more of a context and you needed some backstory at number 4 and 5 with A.X.E, Judgment Day and X Lives and Deaths of Wolverine. But I think my numbers, I think for the most part, Action Comics World Saga, Batman Superman World's Finest, especially Batman Superman World's Finest and Supergirl Women of Tomorrow, you don't need to have any kind of backstory. You could just go in blind and have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break and then come back and talk about some non-superhero books.
This is Katana. She's got my back. She can cut all you in half with one sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
Harley Quinn, nice to meet ya. Love your perfume. What is that? The stench of death?
Whoa, easy, cowgirl. Ain't that kind of a mission. Have a seat.
She seems nice.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, we're going to jump into it because, as usual, if you are fans of the podcast, you'll know we're long already. So let's just do it. We're going to go straight into the honorable mentions. Corey kicked off the last one. I will kick off this one. I'll start by giving 3 quick shout outs to books that are like just great ongoings that we've talked about on this podcast before. Probably could have easily made my top 5 again, but it would just get boring if my top 5 was the same 3 books every year over and over again. So I'm just going to shout out James Tynion's Department of Truth and That Texas Blood, which I think is still my favorite Image ongoing right now. That's the Chris Condon book that it's getting more and more batshit by the day, and I love. And another lastly, shout out to 8 Billion Genies, which is the Charles Soule book, who is probably most famous for his curse words book with Image a few years ago.
Gotta get back around to that.
I like curse words a lot. I think 8 Billion Genies, the reason it didn't make my list is only just because I think it's the most brilliant concept of any of the books I read this year, which is literally at an instant, everyone on Earth gets a genie, a genie that has one wish and will grant the wish, and then you see what happens. And in the first 8 seconds of everyone getting a genie, a million people die on Earth, as you would expect. So it is a dark and funny and really clever book, like all of Soule's books are, and also just like a ton of fun. But I'll kick it over to you, Corey, for your next honorable mention.
Sure thing. All right, my first honorable mention is a book that I usually put on my top list, but this year I decided to take a break from it. Not because it decreased in quality, just because I feel like it's starting to become a thing with me. Back when Paper Girls was still going on, I think this is my new Paper Girls. Something is Killing the Children has entered its, I feel like its second phase of its book with volume number 5. James Tynion horror book has stayed really good. I feel like it's hard to keep the consistency as well as he's done with a simple concept. And I'm excited to see where the story goes every end of the volume. And even though I'd like the trade rate with this book because I think it works so well in 5-issue chunks, it just does suck though because he does such a good job with cliffhangers that now I have to wait again for another half a year for me to figure out what's happening next. Yeah. It's a really good book. I mean, I didn't have a lot more to say about it besides that. Every time I mention the book, I recommend picking it up. The first volume's great and it'll definitely hook you. My second is the Image book, 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, written by one of my favorite writers, Kyle Starks, with art by Chris Schweizer. Trigger Keaton is an asshole action Chuck Norris type from the 70s, 80s, who mysteriously dies, and his 6 sidekicks throughout his career assemble together to try to solve his mystery, but each of them is dysfunctional in their very own way.
Just a very great concept for a book. It's a
very good concept.
One of my favorites of the year. So funny. Kyle Starks is just great. He's so good.
Definitely my favorite humor, my favorite comedy of the year. I love Kyle Starks. I'm excited to read I Hate It Here. I was talking to Che in the break why I didn't read it yet, but I'm excited to hate this place. I'm sorry, but I haven't talked to Che why I didn't read it yet, but I'm excited to dive into that when I get the chance. Che, why don't you start us off with your number 5?
Oh, I have 2 more quick honorable mentions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would be remiss if I didn't have an end of year list that didn't include my boys Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, my favorite comic book duo. They've been like number 1 or number 2 on every list I've done for the last few years. The Reckless series continues to be absolutely incredible. I love everything they do. I just wish they would release them in not hardcover because I can't keep buying every book in hardcover. Brubaker, relax. And last on my list, which could have been number 1, and I have a lot of thoughts on this book that I've kind of wanted to write down. Maybe I'll do my first ever comic book review on the website. But this is Jordan Crane's Keeping Two. For those of you who are watching the YouTube video, I have the book up here. It is a beautiful examination of like anxiety and depression, and like relationships that I think for like this much of the book is perfection. Like, is so fucking good, and I think the ending lets it down a lot, which is unfortunate. But I do kind of like Spielberg's The Fabelmans and Damien Chazelle's Babylon. I want to go back and reread them or revisit them because I think it has a lot to offer. At the moment, it's fallen just shy of my top 5. But I know a lot of people had this on their year-end list that they really connected with Keeping Two. So I think it has a lot of really beautiful stuff to offer, and is like obviously parts of it are truly gut-wrenching in a way that only like Drawn and Quarterly can really like fuck your whole life up. So
they love to do that, don't they?
Yeah, I respect it. But I'll jump into my number 5, and that is the Rick Remender. I actually think couldn't be more different than Keeping Two, A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. And this is essentially like John Wick at the beginning of John Wick, he was like an insurance investigator. It is the story of a man who gets thrown into an underground world that he doesn't want to be a part of by happenstance and by like out of the goodness of his own heart. And the thing that is, I think, most incredible about this story is it's just propulsive in a way that I've never experienced anything like this in comic books, where like I found myself like reading these issues in like 30 seconds and being like, holy, what the fuck? And it's like turning every page, wanting to know what's happening every single second. There's a character death in this book that I don't want to spoil. I think you should read if you haven't. That I literally was like, I like read the next 20 pages in very quick succession, thinking, oh, they'll come back. They have to come back because why would they be dead? And they're not. So I had to like go back and like go through and wanted to really bask in the art of this book because one, the art by Andre Lima Aruja is fantastic, and I just. It doesn't hurt that I can't not see Benedict Wong in the main character of this book.
It looks just like Benedict Wong.
It has to be on purpose, right?
It has to be intentional.
But I think this book, if you have a stomach for violence, that obviously I do because I've been desensitized by years of, the internet. This book is like kind of got everything that I really want in an action story. And when I was talking about economy of language, earlier when I was talking about Ram V's Aquaman Armageddon, I think this book, and obviously Step by Bloody Step, another book that was really great this year that has no dialogue in it at all, are really good examples of this because Remender has so much faith in the art of this book that he will just let like 5 pages go by where nothing is happening. The opening of this book is almost completely silent, and it's just an exploration of like, I think San Francisco Chinatown, or no, sorry, Vancouver Chinatown. And it's just I love this book so much. I ended it. The book ended, so it's done now. Issue 11 is the end, and I was like sort of sad because I obviously wanted more of the story, but I think it takes a lot of intelligence from Remender to really understand the pacing of his story, and I think he ended it in a perfect place. And like I said, it's fucking fantastic. One of my favorites of the year. And I honestly wanted to put it on my list last year, but there'd only been like 3 issues, and I was like, let's cool it a bit. Let's wait until we see what's going on. But now that it's complete, I'm fucking in love with it. So that's my number 5.
All right, I'll take it over then. I try to branch out with my weird picks for the year. And
this one you're gonna have to. This is the first book that you've talked about that I have not read a single page of, and actually don't even really know what the fuck it is. So.
All right, so I picked the Japanese comic Chainsaw Man, written by Tatsuki Fujimoto. It takes a lot for me to actually give a shit about Japanese comics. For the most part, I feel like they're just not well written. And I'm not trying to just dunk on the entire genre, but for the most part, it usually isn't.
I do think there is something to the economy of manga where isn't One Piece like 1,000 issues deep?
One Piece is I will say this. One Piece is actually
well. No, I know. But I'm just saying like that. The thing that is with mangas, they just either like keep fucking selling books over and over and over again, and I don't think that often lends itself to great writing, even from people who are probably great writers. So.
But I will say this about this book though is the author Fujimoto was given something I haven't really necessarily seen in Japanese comics, where basically he wrote the first arc of this book, which was about 100 issues, and then he was like, I'm gonna take a 2-year break, and the publisher was like, that's fine, take your fucking time with this and come back when you're ready to keep on telling your story. And I think that lended itself so well to his storytelling because the book itself bounces between 2 different types of storytelling, where a lot of it can be very quiet. He uses a lot of lack of space and a lot of white backgrounds to kind of leave this sense of melancholy and quietness. And then you juxtapose this with insanity, which is just consistently throughout the manga.
Would I have bought that you would use the word quiet in your review of a book called Chainsaw Man? No, it would not have been on my list of bingo. It would not have been on my bingo card, but that is interesting.
I will say this: it's kind of reminded me of like when you talk about righteous, the righteous search of violence, where there were scenes like that though, where like he just surprises you, where like you'll be in a very fine mood, it'll feel like a quiet thing, and then something horrible happens, and you're like, that didn't actually happen. That
Sometimes
makes no
you just
sense.
got to hit your reader with a bus. I think that's one of the keys of really great storytelling is sometimes you just got to come out of nowhere.
And this series is that consistently. It is a sense of dread and uncomfortableness the entire ride through. Where I think that the benefit does come from its characters, where each of them have their own fit into it, but it is so like chaotic with storytelling, but it also takes a breath every once in a while.
Yeah.
But the problem is, whenever it takes its breath, you have to be concerned where the bus might come out of fucking nowhere and fuck things up.
Yeah.
Where characters feel like they're less in danger when they're in fights or whatever, and it's more dangerous when everything's kind of like the dust is currently settled.
Yeah. I think that was like the real success of like Game of Thrones, really. It's why Game of Thrones is so successful is he cut Ned Stark's head off in the first book so that no one's safe. No matter what you think, like you might be at this fucking wedding chilling, we're going to kill all these people. Like I think that is really a really smart storytelling strategy, so
yeah. And I like the writers, like the drawing isn't the best drawing ever. And I'm not saying this is just Shakespeare, but I just think he's such like a really good job of storytelling with it. And a book that I kind of picked up initially, I was like, this seems like fine, but then I got quickly just drawn into it to the point where I finished like that first arc. Because I haven't really gone back and checked out the second arc yet too much. I read first couple issues just so I could count it on this list. I just wanted to I like to just kind of throw in a random book that people maybe haven't like really had a chance to check out, because I think
we don't do a lot of manga on this.
No, we don't, and that's not. I don't really think that's our vibe in general. But and I think the only comic I think I can recommend manga wise was Attack on Titan, which is over now. But I think this is one of those books that kind of feels like a little like so much of a diamond in the rough, where it's like on paper it's like it's a guy with a chainsaw on his head, but it's like but it gets fucking insane. And when he does these splash pages and his action scenes, they're just fucking bonkers, man. Just a good comic. I just think it's a really solid comic. And I feel like it just kind of flies. It's not really part of the trope, and I feel like it's just, if anything, it kind of could fit in very well over here if it just read left to right. But yeah, that's my number 5.
All right. My number 4, we're gonna sit on, because it's coming later in Corey's list. So I'm just gonna throw it right back to you, Corey.
Sure.
And you can do your number 4, since I want to talk about mine when we get to your
sure thing.
Your
My number 4 is Once in Future, written by Kieron Gillen. We mentioned it beforehand, but this book is about a guy who finds out that he's a part of the Arthurian legend and has to fight bad guys and monsters that
Honestly,
come from.
I hate when that happens. It just ruins my whole fucking Tuesday.
Apparently his grandma's a monster hunter, and then he just like there's so much about it, and it's
a real pain in the ass,
If anything, this book is basically this one guy just pretty much getting like just metaphorically kicked in the dick consistently about like how much his life was out of his control.
Yeah.
But if anything, it's funny, I didn't put this book in here because I don't want to say it's like my favorite book for a while, and I'm surprised I actually put it in my top 5 because it's just fun. It's just a fun book. The comedy is on point. The action's just well drawn and great, and the story has really good pacing. I think there's 4 volumes out right now, and I just consistently go back to it. If you like kind of like those old stories like Beowulf and King Arthur, of course, and everything like a little hint-hinted nudges to everything, and I like the way they established the magical rules in the universe, and the main characters are great. His grandma is one of my favorite characters in any comic I'm reading right now. Love a good badass old lady with a gun. No, it just rocks. I think it's a really good book. If you are looking for any kind of like modern day urban fantasy, I really recommend you pick up Once in Future. I think 4 volumes out right now. Really good book.
Yeah, we were talking about obviously A.X.E. Judgment Day, and like one of the things I said is the reason I think it really works is because it's Gillen leading into his strengths, which is fantasy, and this is where he lives.
Yeah,
right?
This is like it feels like a lot of like what he likes in one book, and I think the book itself is like very much, it knows exactly what kind of story it is telling. Yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things I'm like, this is going to be a TV show at some point, isn't it? So
I wonder. I mean, we haven't seen any Gillen books adapted into a TV show yet, right?
I'm surprised we haven't seen Wicked. I am surprised we haven't seen Wicked and Divine.
I
feel like that was
Die has got to be somebody's.
Die has to be on somebody's radio. But I feel like Wicked and Divine just kind of fits so much, and basically was like kind of like Euphoria, but with mysticism. in a sense.
Maybe that's why we haven't gotten it, because Euphoria is just cooking right now.
Yeah. People want... Okay, I'm going to stop my sentence right there. I was going to...
Yeah, what were you going to say? Maybe I would like Euphoria more if there was more fucking magic in it. Maybe that's what's missing for me.
I think maybe that is what it's missing, honestly. Too much fucking. Not enough magic.
I think the entirety of Gen Z would disagree with us there, but that's okay.
They're not our audience.
Yeah, no.
Who knows? Actually, I don't actually know. I don't even fucking know anymore. We're not going to TikTok because Che won't let me.
Don't do this. You don't want to be on TikTok either.
I don't.
You want to make a fucking TikTok and manage it and upload our videos to it? Go ahead. I'm not going on TikTok, but you're free to.
Can we just do like an algorithm or an AI bot? Fuck it. All right, Che, what's your number? What's your number 3?
Yeah, my number 3. We skipped my number 4. For now, we'll be back. My number 3 is the absolutely brutal Scott Snyder book, Dark Spaces Wildfire. And this book honestly came out of nowhere for me personally, mostly because it's like an IDW book. And I'm bad at checking non-Big 2 plus Image and Dark Horse sites for their ongoings. And it really, luckily, I saw this was a Scott Snyder book, and I was like, I need to check that out. And I don't even remember how I stumbled on this book, but it is a story of I don't really know what the word, chain gang, I guess is maybe the official term for it. It is a group of women convicts who are tasked with fighting wildfires, which, if that sounds preposterous to you, is a thing we already do in society for real. So we live in a fucking hellscape. Don't worry. But it is essentially the story of these women making a terrible decision together that will ruin everything. And Snyder paints an incredible portrait of this group of women. He has incredibly distinctive, beautiful portraits of these women on the page. Some of my favorite characters in a comic book all year long have been the characters in Dark Spaces, and it makes it all the more heartbreaking watching it all go to shit for them, because you're just hoping the whole time, even though you are told literally on page 1 what is going to happen to them, you keep hoping, well,
maybe it won't.
Maybe not this time, right?
It's, you know what? I mean, honestly, man, I have not heard about this book. I don't even think I didn't. My eyes must have glossed over this. I have no idea what this book is until just now.
Fucking fantastic. It is, like I said, Scott Snyder was a guy we talked about on the podcast before, obviously, one of their favorites. Hayden Sherman, who's I did not recognize, but the art in this book is part of the majesty of it, like a massive part of it. So much of the colors and the spectrums of the book really lend themselves to the storytelling in a way that is super effective. If you are turned off by really bleak stories, it is not obviously all sadness and despair like all great stories are. And I think it is a really rewarding read in a way that oftentimes books like this, where it's just sad, aren't. But I found myself at the end of it being I need to go back and reread that now. And
is this series over, Che, or is it still going on?
Yeah, miniseries wrapped and done. So
gotcha.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you could just crush it probably an afternoon. I don't know. I think Scott Snyder has a banger on his hands in a way that I'm with you. I would have completely missed this book if it wasn't for just chance,
just random.
Yeah, random.
I like this other book that we didn't. I don't think we ended up talking about it, but it was a horror book that he did, and I really ended up liking the beginning of it. It takes place in a hospital with that horror film kind of thing, and I really wish I could remember it before without just bringing it up.
Didn't we talk about the first issue, or am I bugging?
We might have. I think we were it was maybe a thing that we just kind of we're gonna mention it, then we kind of oh, this is old as shit, instead of it being new. So
yeah. Scott Snyder's another one who's kind of everything I read by him I really like, but I don't for some reason don't think of him in the same category as King, Lemire, Morrison, all the people who I think are
He's a very efficient writer. Yeah. I'll say that. His Batman, I think his Batman run is still really, really good. And I mean, even like, I think Metal, DC's Metal is just fucking insane.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
But I still
and the main run of it, as we've said before, is really good. Just don't read all the 50 million spin-offs. You don't need to at all.
I think that's exactly what it is. It's like, we don't actually need that.
Yeah.
But we it was existing.
Yeah.
I really wish I could. Oh, Night of the Ghoul.
Yes.
But that came out last year, I believe. So we didn't. We didn't end up talking about it. But Night of the Ghoul was a really good horror comic that he started on. He worked on last year. I believe it's over now, but I really recommend it. I think I'm gonna go write that down and read that at some point. But yeah. Shall I do my pick, Che?
Yeah. Go over to your number 3.
All right. And so my number 3 pick is James Tynion's Nice House on the Lake. I think this book we kind of briefly talked about maybe last year, but at least we kind of mention it every once in a while.
We definitely talked about the first issue. I don't remember if we ever came back to revisit it. I've fallen a bit behind, mostly out of like self-preservation. I find this book upsetting because it reminds me that everyone I love and everything I know will die, which isn't fun.
Yeah,
but it is incredibly well written. It's not
a very fun book. I'll say that much. But it's one of those things where, like, I find myself reading, because I mean, Che notes this a lot, where I'm like, I don't want to read that because I'm like, it'll put me in a bad mood. But then sometimes I'm a sick fuck and I'm like, I want to read about this. And like, I like this. This is fucked up. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but I think James Tynion, for some reason, lets me live in that madness of like, this is fucked up, but my brain's just so desensitized to it that I'm just fascinated with the story itself. But Nice House on the Lake is a story about a group of friends who go on a nice lake trip.
To a house on the lake.
A nice trip with where they are assembled by their good friend to meet each other, hang out. But the entire world ends outside of them. Like everybody else is fucking dead, and basically they're living with the fallout of, first off, what the fuck's going on? 2, is their friend an alien? And 3, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like watching a group of like the real world people have a descent into madness. And the mystery slowly unfolds, but the story itself is half about the mystery. I wouldn't even say like it's half about the mystery. It's like a quarter about the mystery. And it's mostly about these characters. And each character is so well like fleshed out. And you end up like either loving or hating these characters, but you learn so much about them and their character psyche that it's just like, I'm now attached to each of these people for different reasons.
This is going to sound like a negative, but I mean it as a positive. And that is like, it reminds me a lot of like the early aughts, late 90s teen movies, where you just like assemble a group of people that are sort of fun and hate to hang out with, like a great combination of really cool and awful people, and then you can sort of like drop any story around them and it'll be a good time. Obviously, there's a really elevated version of that. Like I think Tynion has really found a really effective horror story to use in that. That sort of setting.
I feel like I agree with that. To me, it kind of feels like a wedding where it's just like, I don't know everybody here. I kind of know you because I maybe met you once.
Literally, a few people don't even like know each other at all when they first
exactly.
Get to the house,
And it's like, I was invited here by this guy because it's like I'm friends with him and he was really insistent about me coming, so I ended up coming. But like, this is a lot of that, and it's like I think it's very interesting. Like, this is what like how you kind of get along with people, but also a question like, how would you react to this? Because part of me is also like, like the world's over. I'm gonna go get drunk on this boat. Like that kind of seems like a very chill thing to do instead of just losing my fucking shit like I could be doing.
Well, the question always that this book really forces you to ask yourself was, would you rather be dead or be in the house?
In the house. I'm gonna be in the house. I want to be in the house.
I don't know. I think I'd rather be dead. I don't want to be one of the last 8 people on Earth. I don't know.
I'm gonna be in the house where I can get whatever the fuck I want, Che. I'm gonna be in that fucking house and hang out.
It's better than a regular house. That's for sure. If it was a regular house, there's no debate. But
we also do know, because every issue starts with each issue seems to be at about a certain character. Each issue like seems to kind of, so like you kind of bounce between like, I want to say there's like 10, 12 people in the house, and each issue seems to be a focus on a particular character.
The format is really clean.
Like it always acts like a flashback. So we always see our characters in what seems to be everything went wrong in the house. Like people are like covered in mud, or like they're like hiding out in some holes, or some of them have guns and shit. So we don't exactly know. Like we know there is more dread coming on top of the fact that the entire world's ended. And
this doesn't seem like just the entire world's ended. Only that.
Yeah. And I thought at one point I kind of figured that where it was going, but I forgot that he also wrote a book very similar to this called The Woods. where it finds a high school transplanted to another mysterious alien location. And I'm like, he's not going to go the same direction with this because he's not the type of writer who likes to retread.
Yeah.
And if every issue, I'm like, it's like Department of Truth, where I'm consistently fascinated to see what he's going to do with this. And that keeps bringing me back to it. And I'm just I'm a sucker for like, oh, this person we knew our entire lives collectively turned out to be a fucking monster, literally in this case. And I want to see the fallout from this. And I think when we first mentioned it around, it's very much, talking about manga again, one of my favorite comics of all time, 20th Century Boys, where it was a very similar thing where one of their friends turned out to be basically insane and causes the end of the world. And he bars life in this, but I think if anything, what he's doing now is a little bit more interesting than what 20th Century Boys did. This is like I didn't want to put it top of my list because I feel like my numbers 1 and 2 are a bit like, I think I like them a bit more for different reasons.
Yeah.
But I think consistently as an ongoing, it's those three. My top 3 books are so much whatever mood I'm in that day. Well, my 2 and 3 are very much whatever mood I'm in that day. But if you're ever in the mood for a good horror book, or just kind of like someone who like me who really likes just characters and likes like character psychology and like, because I think Tynion makes everybody, all these characters, he fleshes them out so much they all feel real. And I'm sure they're probably based on people that he's known in real life, but each character feels like they have so many, they all feel so 3-dimensional. None of them feel like, they all feel like real people, which could kind of get very tricky when it comes to writing, but I think he's doing a really good job about keeping them, even though he kind of does put them in archetypes. I mean, he like literally calls them like the comedian, the writer, but he doesn't, he does the opposite and actually makes them fully fleshed out characters that you learn more and more about. Like my favorite character is a comedian out of all of them, because I just think that he's like the most fascinating out of all of them, because he's just like always listening. He's trying to keep it light, but at the same time, he's the one who's paying attention to everybody. And I'm like, that's a very interesting way to spin the guy who's like, he's constantly observing, but he's making himself seem like an idiot. And I like that. I like what the guy's done with, I like what he's doing with this book. I don't know how long the book's going to go on for, but I'm excited to see where the conclusion is. I can't imagine it's going to go super long, but I'm not sure.
No, I don't really think. Well, I would have said the same thing about Department of Truth, though, and that continues to just go and go and go. So, I mean, I don't really know if... The difference with that and Department of Truth is that we have an endpoint. We keep flashing forward to, like, some climax. So
there is going to be a climax.
I imagine we're going to hit a point at which the shit really hits the fan in this book. So, I don't know. I don't know if it's been announced if there is a official end, but we'll see.
We'll see. And I mean, either way, I'm very excited to see where this keeps on going. It's just been a really fun ride. I'm excited to see how we keep this moving. Good job, DC Black Label.
All right, I'll jump into my number 2, which is the Zoe Thorogood. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Basically autobiographical graphic novel, like one issue or single release trade. And this book sort of came out of nowhere. It is a late addition to, I think it's dropped in like late November, which by the time that most websites do their top comic book lists of the year, it will have already been out, since everybody seems to do it like the week of Thanksgiving for some reason. But I picked this book up, one, because I thought the cover was really fascinating and the title is interesting. Because that's sort of how you have to pick up comic books sometimes in the world of millions of different comic books floating around. But also, Thorogood did some work on Rain, a book from earlier in the year that I thought was okay, but the art was really amazing. She did the art in that book, and she wrote and drew the art for this book. It's Only the Center of the Earth, and it is like gut-wrenching. It is like talking about Nice House on the Lake and how it fucks you up. This is a story that is very blatantly about the exploration of suicide and mental health issues, and the way that she tackles them in the book really reminds me of a book that I loved from a few years ago. My Favorite Thing Are Monsters, and I think there is there was a tact with which one can handle it that is like kid gloves, which I think is... There was a time and a place for that, obviously, because it's a very sensitive topic. But I think the way that Thorogood approaches it, that I find really refreshing, but also like just sort of forces you to accept the narrative, or not the narrative. The narrative makes it feel like it's not the real story, but like she just is like upfront about her feelings toward about this, and that the book opens with her talking about I been thinking about stabbing myself in the neck, and like that's like the first line of the book. And so I will say this is not if you are somebody who struggles with like suicidal triggers or like this, I'm not recommending this to like at point blank everybody. If this is a topic that's gonna like cause you harm, obviously don't do that to yourself. But I went into this book like sort of blind, and just like with every single page fell more and more in love with the way that she writes and the way that she explores this idea in a way that is both really funny at times. Like I think the fact that this book has any humor in it is like a miracle and like sort of incredible, but is like also quite strange and really like magical realism and esoteric at points, but at times can be like really, really heartfelt and serious. And on top of that, her art is like next level shit. I love the style that she brings there, and like every different panel on pages sometimes can be a different style of art. And her use of colors is really beautiful. A lot of the book, I would say even like maybe 50% or more of it is in black and white. So then when she uses colors, it's like really great accents. It's also annoying because she looks like she's like 12. Like, I don't understand how she's so good at this shit when she's like a baby. I hate it. But shout out to Thorgood. I think this book is like fucking incredible. I also, not that this is like a thing that matters to her, but I think it's like opening up like this in a way and writing a story like this is fucking difficult. I know I've tried to write really personal shit. I mean,
we're also gonna talk about a similar book about that too, in a little bit. Yeah.
When you can really tap into something like that, if you can, it's like a sort of a what's the word? Oxymoron, where you get really, really personal. It can be really universal, and the fact that this book is so insular in a way is what made me really connect with it. Is like I couldn't be less like Zoe Thorogood, who's like a white girl from the United Kingdom, but for some reason, like reading these 200 pages, I really felt connected to it. So I really loved it. I think it's one of the more beautiful things I've read in a really long time. If you're looking for something that's at times really funny and also at times really challenging, I think this book is definitely worth picking up.
It seems like we seem to like those kind of books, Che.
I think that's the best art, though. I think the best art is something that really will like fuck your shit up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, we talked about this before on the podcast. Like, can good art be happy? And I don't know if the answer is no, but I think the answer is usually it isn't.
No, I think the question was like, does good art have to be tragic?
Yeah,
I think that was a better question rather than can good art be happy. And I think what we discovered, or at least what we came to the conclusion, is like good art has to have a hint of tragedy, even if it is happy.
Because that's what life is. Life is not all happy. And if your
right.
art is about exploring true life, and that is the thing about It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth, is that this is true. This is real fucking life. I mean, I love fantasy, and I love a bit of genre shit, and I love a superhero book, but like it doesn't get better than real shit. It doesn't. I don't know.
But I mean, even like our like books that we talked about, like let me pull up our like top 5 list. Like I'm like looking at it like X Legends, that's Wolverine, obviously in the name. Judgment Day was about the world ending. Action Comics involved Superman becoming a slave. Batman vs Superman World Highness, a lot of tragedy there. And Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow literally starts off with a little girl looking to avenge the death of her father. And those books, I feel like, considered to be, they're fun. But even then, all of them have a hint of tragedy involved in them. And that's just kind of, I think, clearly those are the books that stick with us. And I'm just doing a quick glance through your books, and it's exactly the same fucking thing.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think it's really hard if you're not willing to. And the other side of the coin is also, like, if your book is all fun and games, it can be enjoyable, but probably will not elevate itself to high art. And I think the thing that I hate more than anything is stuff that is bleak with no sense of light in it. If you write a story that has no humor, then you have nothing to offer me. That's not like, there were people making like one of the greatest things that Brett Goldstein said on his podcast, Films to Be Buried With, was that the thing that he really hates about sad movies is that, like, in the Holocaust, in the concentration camps, there were people making jokes. Like, people were laughing. It was the worst time for anybody in the history of humanity, and people were making jokes because that's how you have to like cope with the reality, is to face it with humor and light. And
That's the like Buster Keaton, that line where James Franco's character is at the guy, like, literally at like about to be hung, and it's just like, first time, huh?
yeah,
Just great, just a great written line right there. It's just like, yeah, no, I'm about to die, but it's just like, hey, listen.
And that's a lot of what is really great about this book. Not to we should move on in a bit, but like, Thorogood has a great sense of what is and isn't effective when using humor in a story like this. So, yeah, I really think it's like, obviously, I think it's one of the best books I've read this year. It's number 2 on my list. So, Corey, should we go over to your number 2?
Let's do my number 1 then.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, my number 1. So we kind of hinted about it a little bit, but my number 1 is Ducks, written by Kate Beaton. I'm sorry, there's a longer line for this, but I forgot to write it down. This
my 2 years at the oil sands, right?
I think that's what it was. Yeah, it's a drawn and quarterly book. Written, it's a hardcover book. I really recommend picking up the book. I know it's a bit expensive, but it's very much worth it in my opinion. As we were talking about a bit, and it's funny, we're not talking about all these horror comics. This book,
I don't know where you're going, but the fact that you've mentioned the word horror comic is very funny to me right now. Sorry.
I guess like the sense of dread I feel like with it, where I feel like, well, Kate Beaton, who's mostly known and most, like, if you guys haven't heard about it, she had a webcomic called Hark a Vagrant. Really funny, really well done. I really recommend picking it up. But that was primarily what her, like, that's how she kind of came to fame as a comic book or cartoonist. But this book is very different.
Yeah.
This book, it's an autobiography about her time after college, where she was an art major and had trouble finding work. So what she did was go and work in the oil fields in Canada, where she's from. What the story tells is a very depressing look at loneliness, being a woman in a very male-dominated workforce, and unfortunately a male-dominated workforce who's there's no hiding the sexism and just misogyny that exists in it.
It's like an it's infuriating. This book is like, it makes me angry a lot.
This book, that's what I was saying. Like, I remember I was reading it and I was texting Che. I read it because I think I read it before you, and I was just reading. Like, I think I messaged you one time. I'm like, yo, like, this sucks. And like I mean, like, the book itself was awesome, but it was just like, yeah, this is like fucking depressing. Men are the worst. This is horrible. Jesus fucking Christ, this is horrible. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Men are the worst. And I think anybody with a pulse needs to read this book.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely must read. This is my my number 4 that we skipped over. It reminds me a lot of a book that made my top 5 from last year, the Factory Summers Guy DeLisi book, which is another one that is like, a lot of this book is obviously about the sexism and that's inherent in the oil sands and all that, but like all art seems to be now, and rightfully so, is like a scathing indictment of capitalism. And
yeah, which also I like that a lot too, where it was, I think she talks about the end of it where she was like, I didn't even like really process, because I think it's also look about like how shitty, like, even though this is Canada, like kind of like the whole shittiness it is of people trying to follow their passions, where a lot of people don't want to do majors or like follow studies of things that are like necessarily needed, and they kind of pretty much just get fucked over because they try to follow their passions. And in her case, later on in life, she was able to become a cartoonist and kind of follow what she wanted to do more. But the way that she had to get to that and the way that she had to get through her student loans almost broke her, basically. And I think at the end of the book, it's just so heartbreaking with, like, I think the final scene, Che, with, like, and, like, they were, like, I think the final scene, they get, like, catcalled, and, like, they basically just kind of brush it off. And their friends were like, why did you not say anything? They were both just, like, very desensitized to it, because that's just kind of how it is, unfortunately. And I think that's what they,
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I mean, like, and I'm saying, like, this book is very sad and has a lot of depressing moments, but I think Kate's writing in it is so good because she's able to still bring out funny moments. And she's still able to make her time there enjoyable, where I didn't feel like the entire book was so depressing. But I think that's the kind of part about it is, though, is like, it's like, you can be these moments where it's like not that bad, and then you'll be like, that sucks, but like you kind of keep it moving. And I think she does a good job about it too. It was like kind of like the consistent amount of sexism and it's like the shit they say, you kind of at that point, it's just like, this is how these assholes are, so I might as well just kind of get used to it. And then like you'll have scenes where I don't want to like really want to give it away, because I think kind of point of art like this is not someone like me telling you what happened. I think part of this kind of art is you experiencing it yourself. And so I don't want to necessarily get into like what the story actually happens page by page, but
also I'm not really sure the like plot of this book is really the experience of it.
No, it's not at all. Anyway. But I think like what I'm saying about this book is though, I think it's one of those things where I feel like it needs to be read and experienced rather than me like kind of like pointing out specific plot points or whatever, because the plot's not really important. I think it's her journey, because the fact that like there's not really much of a plot. It's not even much of a resolution, because this is just 2 years of this woman's life before she became who she was. And
I think the really thing that's interesting about it is that the resolution is that the book exists. Is that like in a way the fact that she's written this book, and that I think it's a New York Times. She's like a New York Times bestselling author. I think this book is a New York Times bestselling book. The fact that this book exists is like in a way the happy ending, in super hard air quotes, of this truly like bleak book.
And I think like the happiest part about it was like where she's like, I started doing this online comic, and then it's like starting to pick up, and I'm like, oh wait, I know. And so like when you kind of do your own timeline with it, I'm like, I remember reading her comics while she was doing this, and that was like already kind of like, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And now she did this book, which was like on so many people. I don't think I've missed this book on any of the top comics of this year. And I picked it up because I was just such a big fan of hers already from the comedy aspect of her writing. But I think this is one of those books that you like everyone. It's not an easy read, but I'm not saying it's not like a hard read. I think it's like somewhere in the middle where it's one of those things. I feel like if it was less expensive of a book, I'd be like, yo, you should read this book. But I like keeping my books, so my friends aren't getting this book. But I think it's one of those things that people should just like, I think if you had the opportunity to, you really should check this out. And you should really give it a read. Like, take your time with it. I mean, I would say not take your time with it, honestly, because I think I read it in 2 sittings, because I started, I kind of got to a chapter, then I'm like, I can't stop at this point because I need to see where this goes. But I think you're very right, Che. I think like the happy ending of this book is that she was able to overcome all of this, and get to where she is now. But I think part of the struggle and part of like what the story ends on is that this is a real story, and there's not necessarily completely happy endings, and there's not like, even though we get to the point that we are now, there's not like a lot of bumps on the road, so we kind of can just get by.
Right, and I also think the real. I don't want to keep calling it a tragedy, because I think tragedy, like,
I don't want to call it.
No, but I think the real the real sadness of the story is that, of course, this is an experience that is in itself, like I was talking about with the Thorogood book, it's a singular experience that is universal in a way, and the same thing has happened to millions and millions and maybe billions of people, and not all of them have really survived it in a way that Beaton has been able to. And I agree with you. I think this is like a triumph of a book. Really, my top 5 is like kind of interchangeable. I had a real hard time of like ordering this stuff on a different day. This might have been my number 1. I just had I have a real connection to the way that this book really reads and really made me feel. I don't have like a ton more to add. I think you're really eloquent about what is effective about Beaton's writing in this book, and I agree with you that everyone needs to read this book. And I think it's a must read.
And it's funny. I think I think my 2 through 5 are very much interchangeable, but I don't know what it was about this book, and I don't like doing this. But I think as soon as I finish it, I'm like, this is my best book of the year. And I think like Superhero.
I think that happens sometimes. Like when I read Sabrina, when I put down Nick Dranaso's Sabrina, I was like, I'm not sure that I'll like ever read something better than this. I think there's sometimes you get done with a piece of art and it like blows your fucking socks off. Obviously, that's what happened when I saw Violent Night. I said, I will never see a movie as good as Violent Night in the history of time. And I walked out of the theater dancing. But
man.
Not every movie can be Violent Night, you know?
You should rewatch it. I rewatched right before Christmas.
It's so fucking good, man.
It is in my Christmas rotation for the rest of my life, I believe.
It is
That's
true
a once a year, Jesus Christ. Like I watched it with my roommate. I think might be the only people who ever mentioned Ducks and Violent Night in the same minute.
I think they have a kinship though, because it's like both of them are about overcoming insurmountable odds and finding the true joy in the people around you that you love. And I think Ducks is like, obviously very, like I said, reading this book made me like angry at times.
I was so mad. Like I think it was like I finished the book at like midnight, and I was like, I got to take a lap. I had to like walk around my block and just like kind of like, because it's just like it just makes you feel like you need a shower, but also like mad about how the world is, and then also like got to remember it's like, well, like this is so much profiting on people destroying like land, and it's just so many things to make you angry.
And I think that on top of it, like you said, there are moments of like real levity and joy in this book that I think is what
it feels like life.
That was elevated to like a different level than if it was just bleak and sad and made me angry.
I mean, like, yeah, I think this is my last point, because I feel like, I mean, listen, I try to like write and do my own shit, but I feel like it's very hard to be emotionally honest. And I feel like with this book, in a sense that I'm just a little bit jealous at that Kate can be this emotionally honest person with herself and allow herself to be vulnerable to millions of people.
Absolutely.
And it's just,
I don't have the ability to be introspective like the way.
Or
the way that like Thorogood was, or even the way that like.
But
like it's not really autobiographical, but the way that like Scott Snyder manages to like tap into the internalities of these characters, I don't really understand how people do shit like this.
It's like not even
it blows me away. It blows me away.
And I think it's a kind of a sense of bravery, which I just kind of have a sense of respect for her as an artist and like writer, whatever, creator. It's just it's like kind of just to me, I'm like, when I finished the book, I'm like, that was honestly one of the best things I've consumed. And it came from a place of straight up vulnerability, and not just because like could have easily just dumped your story on me, but the way that she was able to make it entertaining with moments of like levity and just like flesh out these characters in a sense where they all felt so real, even if they barely were there. It was just, I think like at the end of the day, I kind of want to be like, I wanted to be like, thank you, honestly. Like, I looked up her email and I drafted an email. I'm like, I don't want to do this, but like, I kind of did feel like very like, thank you in a sense of like sharing this like kind of journey or like what like your life with us, because this is something that like I look back at the worst years of my life and I would just block them out. Yeah. I wouldn't want to make a story out of them. And clearly she looked at two of the worst years of her life and she was able to share it for so many positive reasons. And it just felt like I was part of someone's like therapeutic experience, and I appreciate the fact that she let me in on that. I think that's all I got to say about Ducks, but I recommend it, guys. It's like, I think it's like, it was like when I finished it, I'm like, this is going to be my, like one of my comics that I'm going to just at least hold on to and keep on my bookshelf for the rest of my life, probably.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Ducks is a masterpiece. I'm starting to feel like I maybe put it a little bit too low, but I
I'm sorry.
Mostly because you're like being real eloquent about it, and I did fucking love this book. I think it's like
I'm the one who usually makes the stupid jokes for a long time, so it's like it kind of like. Hey,
well, to be honest, I think we should have closed with this one because my number one.
I think we end on a light note. I think that's kind of for the best, though.
Yeah. My number one we've definitely talked about before. We will talk about it again. It is the. There we go. Corey's good. It is the Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss post-apocalyptic, absolutely batshit insane. Like, I don't even really know what genre to call this. Fantasy book? Is that fair? I guess, right?
I guess so.
It's sort of a book that can be anything and everything at once, and that's why I love it so much. Is that the way that I always describe it, I don't know what's going on.
The way I describe it is always post-apocalyptic The Warriors. And people are like, what the fuck are The Warriors? Yeah. So that's how I always like The Warrior. By the way, if you guys have seen The Warriors, it's a group of like a lot of like small gangs built of teenagers who fight each other.
Yeah. Come out and play. Great.
Such a good movie.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's weird. Not enough people have seen that movie. It's weird to me.
I think that the reason that I connected so much with What's the Furthest Place from Here is that it has all of the stuff that we've been talking about throughout this book or throughout this podcast in it, and like that it is really gut-wrenching at times, and it is it has this ability to be like completely internal with its characters, and it has a levity throughout it that is fantastic. But on top of all of that it's just like an absurdism to a level that I don't really know if I've seen it. Not like level like not overly absurdist. There's books that are like insane to the point that it's not fun anymore. We've talked about Bear Fighter a lot on this podcast for that exact reason.
Ludocrats.
Right, Ludocrats. But I think the thing that Rosenberg has sort of perfected here is that he is able to tap into the like parts of the human experience that are in themselves absurd and put them on a page in a way that you're like, oh God, is that what it's like to be alive? Do I do that every day? Like, he takes these everyday experiences of like friendship and society and makes you question existence in a way that's really beautiful and effective. And then every once in a while, there's just like a dick joke, and I love a good dick joke. So like, this is why it feels sort of like ineffective to end it with this as over ducks. But like, I find this book to be challenging in a way that is not and it's not of the norm. Like, you could definitely like read this book through and be like, haha, that was fun and enjoyable. But there's a lot going on underneath the surface with all these characters and like the commentary on the world that he's making and the world he's built, the world they've built. Boss and Rosenberg are co-creators of this. The world they've built is wholly unique, and I just want to spend all of the time in it. I want to spend every second in this insane world, and the aesthetics of it are fantastic.
I'm trying to think about like what that is or where I've experienced it before. Where
that's the thing is, I don't know if I've ever experienced anything like this. That's also why I have it so high. Is it just it's an experience reading this book that is other. It's like of another entire artistic experience than I have. I've never really connected with a story like this.
Like there's a kind of like, I guess it's the only thing I could think of right now, top of my head, but it's like the sense of being like, clearly underneath the surface of this story, something horrible happened. Yeah. Something very wrong is happening, or something really wrong happened,
and nobody will talk about it.
Exactly. And I feel like
it's like it makes you uneasy reading it. You're like, where are all the adults, and why does nobody give a shit? And like, why are these kids locked in this city alone, and why is nobody talking about it? And did they just shoot that kid in the face, and now they're just putting his body in the truck, and then we move on to the next page and we're making dick jokes again? It is this like cyclical experience that feels like I'm constantly, it's like it was an experience I had sort of with Babylon, a movie that I will keep talking about because it's like living rent free in my brain at the moment.
Clearly.
But yes,
I'm not shaming you.
It is like running downhill, sprinting downhill, and in the distance you can see a brick wall, but you can't tell how far away it is, and then suddenly it's there. And you're like, that's sort of my experience of like was watching Babylon, is like suddenly the wall shows up. The wall hasn't showed up yet in what's the first place from here, but I'm just continuing to sprint downhill. And I'm like just trusting Rosenberg and Boss. And I don't really know what's coming. And I think that's sort of the joy of reading this book, is that it can, like I said, anytime I pick up an issue, anytime I turn a page in an issue, it could be anything. And there's a sort of a miracle to that in a way.
Yeah, and I don't really know this is a commentary they're going for, but I've just been thinking about this right now, where it's like how us as a society, because America's fine with like violence, sex is no, we can't talk about that. But like clearly in this in the book itself, it's like, you know, sex is not really talked about really, but it has happened behind the scenes. But
well, like once we get to like that adult boutique issue, it's very unnerving, right?
Yeah, it's really weird. But like, it's like, that is, fucking weird as shit. But like the violence that happens on screen is mostly like, oh, she shot somebody, and it's just like, well, that person's dead. I guess we're like,
right? It's become like commonplace in a
exactly. And I think like I'm trying to think like the weirdest parallel I can think about it with this is, I'm sure you have not seen Adventure Time, but a lot of the backdrop of this show is, the whole idea about the show is like, this takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where they keep on mentioning the whole like, there was a mushroom war where it's like, oh, at some point in the back history or whatever, there were just nukes that went off. And we're now living in a society that's post-nuclear apocalypse. And that's kind of how I feel with this series, which is a lot more for adults, obviously. But it's like, I'm like kind of like these kids who are like going through this obviously hard time, but everything that's happening to them, they're taking it in stride like it's commonplace. Like, I mean, they fight against things, but whenever bad things happen to them, it's much more of like, okay, how do I adapt from here, rather than being like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Which, to the sense, though, it makes really interesting characters and a really interesting setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this story, I mean, I think each issue does like stick with me, and admittedly, ladies and gentlemen, I did not catch up in time for this podcast because I like trade waiting for this one because when I read that first trade front to back, God, that was a good read. But I think I'm going to catch up though because I feel like it's going to take so long, and I'm just after talking with you right now, I'm like I need to.
It's
know
consistently
more.
I think it's just consistently gotten better and better and like up the stakes. Like I loved the first issue, but every subsequent issue after that feels more and more embedded in this world. And I still remember the turning point for me when it clicked in my brain that I'm like I was like sort of infatuated with this story was in that scene where the kid drowns in the dunk tank. And you're like, okay, so this is going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to these kids. They just watch their friend die. This will be like a turning point for the narrative. I was super expecting that. And then you turn the page and it's like nothing's happened. This character that's been in these characters' lives, presumably for years, and in our lives for the entirety of this story, is just gone. He dies in front of you on this page. And then you turn the page and they're like walking around the carnival again. And it is like a tonality that is so, it's like almost, magical realism, the way, like the tone of the story in a weird way. Like nobody's acting like a person in this very intentional way. Not like, I think that's, I usually use that as like a negative. It's very intentional the way that everyone is very disconnected with the world around them. It reminds me a lot actually of Tyler Boss's book from last year that I absolutely love, Dead Dog's Bite, where like there was this town that seemed like it was like existed in a vacuum and like there was no fucking rules or something, which
is like but then don't give it away because I think everyone should read that book as well because that's collected in trade, by the way, guys. Great read front to back. It's one of my favorite books of last year where I could be like, you don't read comics, but this is a good book. And I think I've kind of passed this book along. I passed the book along to a lot of people. And yeah, I think this book is like it feels like a great modern comic, and it just hits hits a lot of really great notes. And I think Tyler and Matt got a lot of things just going right for them. And one day, Tyler, I'll see you in that comic book shop and you can get on this fucking podcast.
Come on the podcast, Tyler. What's wrong? You afraid of two guys telling you how much they like your fucking books, coward?
Yeah, you piece of shit.
But we are, as usual, about as long as it fucking gets. Cory, do you have anything else to add before we do a quick rundown of our lists?
No, because this is so long and I'm so tired.
All right. Quickly, I'm going to run down my 5. Right, number 5, A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. Number 4, Righteous Thirst for Vengeance by Rick Remender. Number 4, Kate Beaton's Ducks. Number 3, Dark Spaces Wildfire by Scott Snyder. Number 4, Zoe Thorogood's It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth. And number 1 is Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss's What's the Furthest Place from Here. Cory, what is your top 5?
My number 5 is Chainsaw Man, written by Tatsuki Fujimoto. Number 4 is Kieron Gillen's Once and Future. Number 3 is James Tynion, the fourth, Nice House on the Lake. Number 2 is What's the Furthest Place from Here by Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss. And my number 1 is Ducks 2 Years in the Sands, written by Kate Beaton.
I was going to ask to close out the podcast, since we split up the books this year, I was going to ask you which of your number 1s would be your number 1 overall. But I think that answer is very obvious to everybody. So I will answer that question for people who are curious. And for me, it's also my number 1 on the others list. And I think it's actually by a hair. I was
going to say your number 1 on Human Target's also a very excellent
I love
book.
the Human Target. But I think for me, it's What's the Furthest Place from Here.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it just gets edged out because I just have never read anything like it. It's so unique.
I think it's just like it's that weird line between entertainment and then something actually just like full on affecting you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it was. 'Cause I think I also didn't really know what to even expect going in the Ducks, and I think that's what really got me. And I'm like, this will be sad but fine. And I'm like, I am destroyed.
I say it mostly in relation to movies. Obviously, I'm like big proponent of don't watch trailers, but I think going into art blind is like the best. I think it's the best experience.
No, I think you are very right.
And if you can,
which is why in Avatar 2 I went in completely.
I really need to end the podcast, obviously, but I hate that the last thing we're going to talk about is Avatar 2. But
I went into Violent Night blind. I think
Violent
I had a
Night, great fucking movie. Can't wait for it to win the Oscar for Best Picture. Don't forget, if you're watching the YouTube channel, like and subscribe. If you've made it this far, I mean, kudos to you. But also, you found more than 20 incredible books for you to check out if you haven't read those. So also, you're welcome. And if you haven't already, please go rate us 5 stars on all your podcast platforms. We're all over the place. Really helps us out, helps people find us, and that's the good shit. And last but not least, don't forget to follow us. I think I might have already said that. I'm sort of losing my mind since we've been.
It's okay. We're cutting close to 2 hours, so it's fine.
3 hours. We're cutting close to 3 hours.
Oh my god, I'm gonna die.
We'll see you guys next time for TV. I've been Che.
I've been Cory.
Bye.
Bye.
Sweet Christmas.